Good. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our November 18th board meeting. I do have to start though with asking those without masks to get masks because that's the requirement in the school per the governor. And there are also children here tonight. So we do have to maintain that. I guess there's masks in the back if you don't have one. Give you a few minutes to do that. Thank you. All right, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need a motion for approval of the minutes for October 14th and October 29th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, we have a student liaison, middle school news team video.
The entire news team sees.
Oh, that's the team?
That is the team.
Oh, wow.
So
You-
they've got a video and then they're gonna talk.
Very nice. Thank you.
All right, team, do you want to come up and introduce yourselves? I did not know the whole team was showing up, so thank you all.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm really cool, as you all know. Call me the executive producer. Our previous president got impeached, so I've assumed the role. Does anyone have any questions about what we do?
Oh, I do. Do you guys do this now instead of announcements, or is this just something in addition to the announcement?
Yes, yeah.
So does it, so
This is what we do.
Okay. All right, cool. So this is how you do announcements now, okay. It's great.
My name is Joe Garland. I usually just do like Mackenzie and the other girl that I just kind of say what the announcements are today. I do it usually once every 2 weeks, usually, once every week. And I have questions.
Joe, can you give us some examples of how producing a news show like this has challenged yourself or your group?
It can be challenging with Wi-Fi issues, like not every single teacher will be able to see the announcements, or certain classes, kids won't be able to see the announcements, and internet problems. So a lot of challenging technology stuff like that would be the most interference with something like this.
Hello, I'm Lexi Haas, and you did see me on the video. I am part of the daily announcement crew, so once every week and a half, I will be one of the 2 people who do the announcements, but I also double as the page flipper, so every once in a while, I'll also flip the pages when I'm not doing it.
Hello, I'm Caitlin Slater. According to Joe, I am the other girl. I usually just do the announcements of what Lexi said once every week and a half. Usually I go most days to just like help out. Tristan and Lexi usually do most of the stuff.
Hi, I'm Georgia Vanek, and me and Marvel what created this announcements with Miss Brooklyn, and I usually come inside and like help out like once a week. Hi, I'm Marvel teacher, and like Georgia said, we are like the marketing creators, the CAS, and I just come and help out somebody.
I am Kenzie Moore. I usually do the announcements. I usually do it with Bella. And usually I show up every single day. I mean, even though I don't do the announcements every day, I do that just because, just in case someone doesn't show up or, you know, they need a sub in. So that's really all I do, the announcements.
Who writes the announcements?
Since we're new types of now, and she, we normally need a. We're not gonna criticize. Sure.
And she gets information, like, she gets sports information, so she gets that from the coaches, and just like some other she will.
Do any of you see yourselves on television as adults, like, or writing scripts or executive
Maybe.
producing?
I
You do,
think-
Tom?
I've always liked script writing.
Yes,
Me and my mother, we do a lot of script writing, usually summer.
okay. You feel like this is good preparation for that?
Completely.
Okay,
It definitely gives you a voice, something to build off of.
good.
And it's very interesting to see some people who are generally like more shy. A lot of us are like outspoken, which they don't look like, but some of us are like shyer, but you can see them really like blossom out into their full selves on the announcements and like talking loudly and getting across information.
How do people in the school see this? Is it projected in the classroom? Is it through?
It's a Google Meet
Mhm.
that our Mr. Baker puts together, and around 8:30, everyone's expected to join us. We start the announcements.
How does somebody join this group, other students?
Really, to show up.
Or someone recommend them to the group, that's how.
Yeah, the way that I was put into the group is really Berkman usually can see if people are more outspoken or they're shyer. So they usually invite people who are more louder with their voices. to have. Once in a while during office hours, like, I sit on the announcements, we have like a meeting, all of us, and if you were interested, you could just come and then we would tell you what's all about. So, you know.
Any more questions?
Will we ever see you go on location to give a news profile?
I believe they're gonna go on location next week,
Well,
Nice.
live from the raffle.
Oh, yeah.
I believe there's gonna be a special report. Yeah. I don't know, is that news to you guys? I believe it's gonna help out with the raffle.
you thought you were just throwing something out there. But don't worry, that's happening. Nice. Well, this is terrific. Very nice
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
Very
nice
nice
job.
job. Thank you. Thank you. That's terrific. Okay, so we have some presentations we'd like to have with some teachers.
We have ELA. Cool. So as they're getting ready as a board, this year we're going to have every subject area present to the board at some point during the school year. So we're going to have ELA and science up tonight. All right, so they're going to give you an update on just general curriculum updates within ELA, K-12, and other happenings in that subject area.
Do you have an executive producer?
No. We're co-producers.
Oh, okay.
My name's Katie Van Everbeck. I teach first grade at EJA. It's Michelle Whiting. She teaches kindergarten. We're going to talk quickly about the K2 ELA curriculum that we're working on this year. We are at the K2 group implementing the units of study in reading, writing, and phonics instruction. We have all started doing daily guided reading group and groups, and that helps us to meet with each of our students and address specific individual needs for, 2 to 3 kids in group. Based on their specific needs, we can really target their specific skills. And then recently we met with our representative from Questar to go over the essential standards to help us target our curriculum and really focus in on the most essential parts of our New York State standards that we are required to address. And really that kind of led to a discussion about taking our science and social studies curriculum and integrating that into ELA so that we can spend more time on those ELA skills while also being able to tap into the science and social studies content areas.
And then just to add, with the essential standards, what we mean by that is, what are we expecting every kindergarten, first grade, and second grade student to leave that grade level with? So what are the must-haves, if you will, those skills?
Hi, I'm Christine Goldner. I teach 4th grade over at EJA.
Jessica Milnick, I teach 3rd grade here at PE.
So I just want to take a couple moments and speak to you a little bit about our grades 3 and 4 ELA curriculum. So we did work with Karen Kohler about 2 weeks ago, sat down as a grade level and discussed our essential standards. What do students really need to know before they leave 3rd into 4th, and how we can build upon that. We also, we do that through our units of study in reading and in writing. We do guided reading where we can really target small group instruction at their level, whether it's an enrichment level, grade level, or below. In addition to that, we really focus on building the comprehension, building vocabulary, and we do that through science and social studies as well. And in our writing program, we're focusing on the whole writing process, learning how to draft, revise, and edit using narratives and opinions, really analyzing at the 3rd and 4th grade level how for literary essays. And we, again, we really integrate that in science and social studies. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Prey. I teach 7th grade ELA here. And Dr. Mercer asked me to come up and speak today to everyone about the changes that we've had or that we see from the next gen standards that we're working with or going to be working with soon, and how they've changed or the changes from the Common Core standards that we might be a little bit more familiar with. So if you, what you can see over on one of these screens here, the change from the Common Core to the next gen standards, I think, came from a lot of people feeling that the Common Core standards left a little bit out. Maybe they were a little unwieldy, maybe they were not necessarily grade appropriate at times. So I think the first change was creating a better balance between fiction and nonfiction in order to promote reading for pleasure. We've done these, the work that the elementary is doing now. We did that in the secondary level in spring or maybe even in the winter, looking at those power standards. And so now using those with the next gen standards, these are the changes that we're looking at here. Also, these next gen standards allow for more flexibility and enjoyment, which I really think is a great step for our education to bring that love and that sort of joy back into reading, especially when we're talking about ELA, and especially giving the younger grades a chance to develop these standards through play and through these more active and more enjoyable standards and ways to do and sort of administer this new information. They've also added lifelong practices of readers and writers to ensure that students become lifelong learners. I'm always a big fan of making sure the students understand that learning doesn't stop in June, whether that's June at the end of their 7th grade or June at the end of their high school career, that we do want these students to continue their learning outside of these school walls. And then also the last one, revise the ELA standards across all the grade levels to reduce repetition. Again, sort of cutting that fat that we saw with the Common Core standards. Also ensuring clarity, and I'll show you an example of what that exactly is looking like on the next gen slides as compared to the Common Core standards. Making sure that the standards that we are working with, that we are using to sort of guide our instruction are grade level appropriate, and that we are working towards more vertical alignment. So what we're doing in 7th grade is building what was done on 6th grade and 5th grade and all the way down the line back towards the elementary grades, but also that's being built on toward the secondary and the higher levels as well. Common Core, of course, did that, but I think Next Gen does a little bit better job of making sure that we are staying on that track and making the standards a little easier to understand for the teachers, which makes it a little bit easier and more enjoyable for the students. So as you can see, if you look at one of these here, I just grabbed 7th grade because that's the one that I'm most familiar with. These are 2 standards for the reading, and the one on the top is for the reading and the one on the bottom is for the writing. So as you can see on the left-hand column, these are the old Common Core standards that we are sort of moving away from, and I'll talk about the timeline on the next slide. As you can see, the right-hand side, these are the Next Gen standards, and as you can, I'm not necessarily going to read them to you. I'm not going to insult your intelligence that way, but as you can see, the bolded ones are the changes that have been made. Again, these are very small changes, but they are large on our end as teachers. So just small changes to the verbiage, cleaning things up, making them a little bit easier to understand. If you look down at 7W8, that second one on the bottom, again, I struck out the words that were changed from the Common Core to the Next Gen. So you can see that we are working with something that's a little more efficient, a little easier to understand, which of course translates to having a better experience for the students on their end. So I think a lot of people were feeling that the Common Core standards were a little wonky and unwieldy, like I'm saying. So Next Gen is just kind of making sure that we kind of get exactly to where we're going in a little bit of a quicker timeline, more efficient timeline. And this is a sort of a visual aid that's been bandied about a lot, especially the trainings that we've been going to. So you can see right where we are right now is that sort of that second little square there, 2021, 2022 in the spring. So we will be sort of the state tests for 3 through 8. This will be the last year that we'll be testing on the Common Core standards. Those Common Core standards will last a little bit longer in high school. I think as you can see, in 2027 is the last time high school students on the Regents will be tested on the Common Core standards. After that, all grades K through 12 will be tested on and using the Next Gen standards. So we're in sort of this transition period where we're letting go of the old and sort of picking up on the new. We haven't quite left those Common Core standards behind, but this is where we are going with the Next Gen standards. Although they do seem like very small, somewhat necessarily insignificant changes, they are very big for us as the teachers to help direct our instruction. Something else Dr. Mercer asked me to speak about was what the teachers would like as far as resources to help us bridge this gap or make this transition from Common Core to Next Gen. And every teacher I spoke with, and then ELA and LOAP department all said that we need the time to learn these changes and how those changes are going to affect not only our instruction, but our assessment, but also the training that will be necessary to help us make these changes with these new standards. Though they might seem very, like I said, the changes might seem small and insignificant, they do translate very large on our side. So it is something we're working very hard on, very diligently with. We are transitioning to standards-based learning and standards-based teaching. So making sure that we really understand not only what they're saying, but the intricacies of each of these standards is not only a large task, but something that we're excited to take on because it'll mean a better job for us, which of course will translate to better learning for the students. Any questions on any of that? I know there's a lot there, and I didn't get into all of the details there, but there are a lot of very small but very significant changes throughout the standards.
As you learn them, are you learning them individually or together as a group or in teams or?
Good question. As I'm for those of you who might not know, I'm the leader for the ELA 7 to 12, ELA in language other than English standard or team. So I try to take that on myself, do what I can as far as I can independently. I will, if I need to, go to Dr. Mercer or whoever else might be able to help me. And then I roll those understandings out to the ELA 7 to 12 team. Of course, as we get any training, of course, I'll bring what I can to it, but I try to take that step first myself and then go from there.
When you spoke about teachers needing time,
Yes.
collaborative or individual time to actually get your stuff, like uncontrolled planning time, like you can do what you need to do to be prepared. That's what you guys need.
Certainly, a little bit of both, to be honest, especially since we're working towards that vertical alignment like we've talked about. So it's a little bit of understanding our own grade level and the changes that are there, but also how that affects the grade below us and the grade above us. And of course, even those, it's that ripple effect of, it might be small between 7 and 8, but K to 7 to 8, those are the big standards. So it is a little bit of our own independent time, but also we will need to work together as a group, for sure.
The board has talked at this level about moving to a more project-based learning model.
Sure.
I'm just wondering if any of you have any thoughts about that, or how we should proceed in the
I'll turn it
future.
over to the ladies. Let's go first.
Project-based learning can be applied very well to the new standards that Ms. Craig was talking about, as well as the elementary curriculum. The next gen standards are pre-K to 16, like they're all encompassing. And project-based learning is a really efficient way to be able to address all of the nuanced standards that he was referring to. Thank you.
It's a very effective way of increasing student engagement. I feel these real world abilities, these real world skills, these real world projects definitely do increase not only students' engagement in the class, but will, I think, help with the attendance and the behaviors as well, because the students will feel a little more engaged. Absolutely.
They could be across grade levels. That how Rebecca and I did a project together in the spring of last year. She's first grade on kindergarten, so it allowed for her students to bring their knowledge into the project, and then it allowed the base knowledge that my little ones had, but they were able to collaborate and build, and what they accomplished was really neat.
I will agree that the PBL assignments and those projects do yield a lot more exciting and I would say even impressive outcomes for sure than the traditional activities.
And you'll hear from the science people next, but we're also embracing next generation standards from the science world also. So PBL really lets us tap into multiple disciplines at the same time and engage the students at a high level of thinking that is different from maybe when we all went to school.
And I think it's reflective of the real world as well. Not many people just do writing or just do math. It's a lot of everything in the real world. We do everything. And so I feel like that's a little more reflective of an authentic practice, sure.
Josh, if you're bringing the material to the 7th to 12th, how does it work in the lower grades?
And as far as I know, the lower grades have one, 6th grade has their leader, 5th grade has their leader. And then I think on down the line, I think I might be one of the few that has sort of a large chunk of teachers as part of my team.
Because working cadres in the elementary level, and then we'll go back to our specific teams in grade levels.
So
Disseminate that.
Do you come together, or do you do over Zoom, or how do you
Right now, we're just starting this piece, so we're working, like I worked with the 3rd grade cadre for ELA, and we were doing this past time with our Questar representative, and then we went back to our teams, but our hope is to go cross-curricular or cross-grade level, so I meet with the 4th grade ELA, I meet with the 2nd grade ELA rep, so then that way when we're working our maps and curriculum and assessments, we can see that bridging between the grade levels. So that's something that's we're working on that. And right now we do work virtually during our, mostly during like ELT times that are designated. But it's a big job, and sometimes like Chicago meetings were during instructional time. So it's a big undertaking. So
yeah. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Science department up next.
Hi, I'm Melissa Baronini. I'm excited to be here tonight and tell you about the fun that we are having with science in STEM. 5 minutes is a short amount of time, so I'm going to try my best to be very brief. Thanks, Frank. All right. So in this document that I shared with you where it says, please refer to this doc, it's an overview of all of the elementary standards K-5 that are science standards. And inside this doc, if we scroll up a little bit, You can see that some of the areas are highlighted, and I'm sorry. Okay. All right, so I took everything from the kindergarten standards and I dropped them all in here. And you may notice that they're organized by life science, earth science, physical science, engineering, and cross-cutting concepts. So the way the standards are written, it's written so that you're working with some content, but you're working towards engineering and then the cross-cutting concepts like cause and effect, patterns, systems and models, structure and function. So they want that woven in there together. And so one great way to do that is to have STEM. So in the STEM classes come to me with their teachers K4, and we'll work a certain area. So right now, I'm seeing kindergarten one time a week for 40 minutes for one trimester. So one class per trimester. It's the first year picking up kindergarten STEM. So it is a learning process. So we're learning how can we work this into the ELA and the math, while we're still hitting the engineering, the cross-cutting concepts, and the content that is meant to be covered. So we can't do it all in that small amount of time. So using kindergarten as an example, focusing on physical science. Now you may notice in this doc when you peruse this on your own that I'm spending a lot of time with classes all the way up, hitting this physical science, because I had the unique opportunity to teach 5th grade science last year at the same time as doing STEM. And I could see where they needed to be in 5th grade. So I looked at that physical science strand and I tried to pull that up through all of the grades. So for example, with kindergarten, they're looking at push and pull, and how you can change the direction of something by pushing or pulling. And they're doing an engineering design with robots where they're coding them. The robots are pushing and pulling things. They're having learning stations, and they're learning about cause and effect and patterns in doing that. Now we see that push and pull come back way up here, way down here in 3rd grade. So in 3rd grade, they take that push and pull, okay? And we're looking at magnets, the forces in magnets. You have a push and pull force, and the effects of balanced and unbalanced force on the motion of an object. So having that piece from kindergarten that I can pull up into 3rd grade is a great springboard. And then in 3rd grade, they're catapulting and sending trajectories in different directions. They love that. Okay, and I'll show you some photos of that in a few moments here. But I'm not going to go through this whole doc with you because I just want to explain how it's organized. You may notice that 3rd grade, everything is linked. I've been doing 3rd and 4th and 2nd and 5th for a couple of years, and these are links that take us to performance indicators that help us know if they're actually achieving these standards or mastering these standards. In kindergarten first year, I haven't linked them in yet. They're coming. So that's where I'm heading with that. Couple of other things. Pop back up here to the top. This is just the overview of how much everyone is getting. First year, adding in our 6th graders, they're getting it. Half of the 6th grade comes semester 1, and then the other half comes semester 2. So everybody's getting a little shot at it. And 6th grade, once they hit 6th grade, their standards, you're still doing a core content area with engineering and cross-cutting concepts, but 6th grade focuses only on life science. And then when they get to the upper grades, it focuses on one area per year. So right now, K5, we're doing it all. And so STEM is helping to support giving them those hands-on opportunities and really working the standards. I've added a link to critical features of instructional materials design for today's science. Is a guide to help folks see what needs to be part of the curriculum. And it also has some notes in there about what assessment should look like in the future as we start to build that. I want to go back to the slide presentation. Thank you. So the 3-pronged approach, life science versus physical science, vertical alignment, covered all of that. I want to show you the work that the kids are doing, because that's the exciting part. So that's our next slide. Okay. Thank you. All right, so in this slide, we're looking at our kindergartners. You can see they are playing with the bots. They are coding them. They are learning left, right, forward, not straight, forward, because that's coding language. And we're kind of slipping it in there. You can see that they're setting up dominoes. If you change the position of that domino, it's going to change the direction in which it goes. So again, what can you do when that push is changed? Changes your results, cause and effect. Just little simple things. They are playing with Kiva bots that are bumping into walls and changing direction. They have a Cubeto bot. You give Cubeto the commands. So they're getting a lot of the coding language. But really, that left, right, we really need to work that. And I see that again in second. I see that in first and second. So they're having a lot of fun. They're playing with slingshot racers. When they get to fourth grade, they actually make a slingshot racer. They're kind of exposed to them and how they work. Our first grade, they're also using Cubeto. They're learning about sky patterns. So perfect patterns going on right now with the moon. And they just recently started making perler bead moon models of the different phases of the moon, keeping it hands-on. They did start to do some observations in the Aqua Lab. So they're learning what an observation is, and they got to draw. They love Kiva planks. So it's all based on what they're doing in science, but additionally, starts to connect into their social studies. With some of these bots, they have story maps about the big city or Cubeto's first day of school. So it works in not just with science, but with social studies. Second grade, there's so much in second grade that ties in with fifth grade. They really get into properties of matter. So they're looking right now at water and where water is located on Earth. You can see over here in this picture, they are making a topographic model of a hillside. Those are tracers that they are tracing around to show the elevation. They're also at the same today. I must have done this like 3 times, 3 different classes today. They made mountain models and they put ink at the top. We're talking about where water goes, stormwater runoff. It's a big deal, but it ties in with that engineering design. Is that a problem? So they're starting to identify that, yeah, stormwater runoff really is a problem. And they saw that today when I told them their farm was at the top of the hill and that their pond that they fish in was at the bottom of the hill. So they had a lot of aha moments today. It was really pretty awesome. They're also using Cubeto. They're using Cubeto Ocean. And they're having a really good time with it. All right. Third grade STEM. These third graders have not had STEM before because the year before we didn't have second grade STEM and then we had the pandemic. So we're working to kind of catch them up on a couple of things that they may not have grasped in those earlier years. So we started off with magnetism and electricity. Now, the electricity unit kind of focuses on their properties of matter, if it's a conductor or an insulator. So they actually build paper circuits, and then we take that whole electrical piece and we apply it to magnetism, and they are building magnetic door locks right now. So there's a lot of different hands-on that goes into that, and they're thinking it through, and they'll see, I have a student playing with little bits. They're a magnetic electronic kit. They snap together magnetically. If they don't snap together and they're repelling, the students know right away that it's not hooked up correctly, okay? So electromagnets, little bits, and they're working up to an Ozobot activity where they're going to use Ozobots to model the flow of electricity and the magnetic force. And we have really cool Ozobot Evos that they can drive several of them at the same time. So when they find out that they can have an army of bots, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement. I can't wait to do that with them. And then fourth grade, they're excited because this is the year they get to make the car. So they make the slingshot racer and they're learning about storing that energy. And then we take that car and we add electricity to it. So we add a motor and we start looking at the different ways that energy is transferred from the battery all the way to the sound that the propeller attached to the motor makes. And then the next step is to look at a bot that can be coded to steer that car. So they're just about to round that corner now using the Spheros to do that. At the same time, they learned a lot about earth science using a mystery science unit, did some volcanoes, tied in great with social studies and science. And so they had
a mystery about fossils at an asphalt fossil bed. All the animals were not killed by volcanic lava, but it was the ashfall that suffocated them, and they had to figure that out through a lot of different activities. We did sugar shake where we had sugar cubes and they learned about weathering and erosion. That was a good time. And so we had the nice time this year with, they had 2 or 3 times a week because they're going by trimester. And so when they leave, it's not, I'll see you in a week. It's, I'll see you tomorrow and we'll finish this up. So it's working really well. And we're able to get a lot more done. 5th grade and 6th grade, I put them together because they're using a lot of our technology. They're starting to self-direct. You'll notice they're using drones, which they love. The drones are great. They're little mini tello drones. And so we started in 5th grade. There's a STEM case gizmo that talks about a problem on a bee farm or a strawberry farm, and the bees are not pollinating, but they have to use the drone in the sequence to figure that out, why things are not getting pollinated. They eventually find there's a garbage pile nearby. The bees are more interested in the garbage than the flowers. And then they learn to use a drone. So like, yes, next week we get to use drones. So we've been flying and crashing drones for a couple weeks. In the beginning, they started with the Ozobots. They were making models of the water cycle. We also have a 3D printer this year. Our 6th graders love it. They're exploring how to use that. I have a student who has selected to do a project on prosthetics and how 3D printers can help people. They're advocating for more education on prosthetics and 3D printers, which is exciting. And there are students who actually have family members who have lived through losing a limb. And so they're stepping up to join that advocacy club and be a part of that. So it's really neat to see that their advocacy is contagious. And so there's many, many STEM clubs coming out of the 6th grade because they're self-directing through a project using some of the technology that we have. 5th graders are starting some chemistry stuff with me right now. So we are going to be making some rockets, and we're going to be making some shrinky dinks. It does tie in nicely, hoping that they can start to argue the importance of these experiences that they're having, because we want them to be advocates for the environment. And understanding chemistry and how it works will also help them understand how to protect our environment and how the carbon cycle works. I believe that's the end of what I have for you. Do you have any questions for me?
I just want to applaud you for your excitement that you bring to the
Thanks.
It's very contagious.
It's exciting. I love what I do with the kids. It's exciting when they come into me because I don't always know, oh, who's RTI, who's special ed, who's a high reader, who's a low reader. That doesn't prevent a kid from coming in and engineering something or flying a drone or becoming a drone expert. I have a student who's a special ed student who has become the drone expert and can fix all of our drones. And it's amazing because they've stepped up as a leader and you wouldn't think anything otherwise. So when they come to a STEM class, it doesn't matter. They get to be engaged in a hands-on activity every time.
As a result, what's happening in the elementary grades, we see more kids at the high school level start taking more higher end science courses.
I don't work in the high school end, so
As a department, do you discuss that at all?
I have not met with the high school as a department. I usually meet with like 5th or 6th grade because I don't work with any students past that grade level. So I'm not real sure. I would have to get back to you on that.
I haven't seen that data, so I don't know if it's true or not.
One of my concerns is that when kids get to high school, some kids may shy away from science. What can we do to get kids in high school to challenge themselves to take higher end science courses?
I have to give that some thought. The first thing that comes to mind is providing as many opportunities and experiences as we can in these younger grades. So for example, I had a 4th grader just a couple weeks ago who tends to be a 4th grader that can get into trouble, get off task, and things like that. Came in, and our first electricity activity that we did, I noticed that the student did a really careful job in the wiring, and I said, wow, that's really great. You could be an electrician. Well, it didn't really register, but a couple of minutes later, he came up to me and said, "What's an electrician?" So I explained. He said, "I want to be an electrician when I grow up." And so as he built his car was the first and most successful car to take off down the hall. And he's so excited and his whole demeanor has changed. And so I don't think this kid will ever forget that experience. I think it's going to stick with him. Whether it sticks all the way through high school, they will never forget that car that they made and that somebody said that they could be an electrician someday. So having a kid discover what their personal strengths are, I think is really important.
Is there any opportunities for high school students to come down to the elementary grades?
I would welcome that. I mean, the more hands in a STEM lab, the better, because, you know, we're hopping around, the teachers and I are hopping around trying to help as many as we can. Sometimes we have to stand back and say, no, you guys have to figure this out. But when we're passing out materials, or I need a battery, or I need this. And I did have a former student who was substituting in my class a couple days ago. And he was like, wow, we didn't get to do this when I was in 4th grade. This is so cool, you know? So I think it's something that our kids want to be able to do. And then the ones that did this last year are still, even though I didn't let them keep the wires and the batteries, they're still telling me they still have that little popsicle stick car long after it's over. So that feeling of pride and accomplishment doesn't leave a person.
I think it's really nice that you're exposed to color grades, so you can see where it's lacking and build upon it. And so with that,
I'm really lucky because I can see it. I can see it right away. When I was in 5th grade, I'm like, I don't think we did this in 2nd grade, but if we did, I think it would really help them and they would remember that activity when they got to 5th grade. So and I'm very lucky because I get to work with all of the students K-6 in the district, and it's a unique, lucky thing for me, and it's exciting.
No, it sounds like it. Like you can really recognize, you know, where things are lacking and where you can build on it. It's great. So,
Thanks.
nice job.
I heard today that Jason Sudeikis, the actor, is involved in a charity to raise money for prosthetics. This just makes me think of.
There's a connection.
Maybe there's something. There's some event happening soon. I'll look it up and see.
Yeah.
What it is.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's exciting. That's great.
Great. All right. You're next.
So just need the slideshow back, please. So I'm Tom Guile. I lead the 712 science team, and I was asked to talk about the standards, but we kind of already did that a little bit. So I'll just talk less. That's fine. So the new next gen science standards, they're branded as being 3 dimensions of science learning, and they call their 4 branches of science: physical science, life science, earth and space science, and then engineering design. I teach physics, which is kind of lumped into that physical science one. NGSS treats physics and chemistry as physical science. But the 3 dimensions that they're talking about are the cross-cutting concepts, which are the common concepts across all fields. So stuff that exists in biology, it exists in chemistry, it exists in physics. It's across all of those disciplines. There's also the science and engineering practices, which is the stuff that scientists do. It's like making models, inferences, stuff like that. And then the disciplinary core ideas is the content, which is really where high school science has lived for a long time. It was all that disciplinary core ideas. So like if you're teaching physics and you take the physics regents doesn't really care if you can set up an experiment and come to some conclusion. It really kind of cares if you can use a calculator. So it's a very different approach to teaching science, these NGSS standards, compared to what's traditionally there. So if we look at one of these in particular, this says, use mathematical representations to support the claim that the total momentum of a system of objects is conserved when there's no net force on the system. So that standard right there is we're trying to talk about conservation of momentum, but the way that you would do that traditionally is you have one blob that moves towards another blob, this one with an initial velocity of whatever, the other one with an initial velocity of whatever, and then explain like what the final velocities would be. But what they're talking about in these new standards is you wouldn't really do just a word problem with it. You'd have to come up with a model to explain what happens in that scenario, or what would happen in any scenario if they had different initial velocities, if they had different initial masses or something like that. So in the past, it's like 90% content, and then you do a lab and see how it goes. And now it's more like content is a third. A third of it is those lab experiences, and a third of it is your engineering stuff. That's what I had to say.
Do you feel that kids are getting science a little better through this model?
So I'm puzzled by the phrase "getting science."
Is it easier to understand with tangible kind of using stuff?
It is easier to understand the experiment that's right in front of you. The trouble is, if we take time away from the problem solving, the rote like math problem approach, then that lessens. It's a give and take sort of thing. But I think overall, it's absolutely better to approach it with the hands-on stuff. You can build that intuition. You'll always have the calculator in your pocket, but if you can't think through the problem, then you're screwed. Anybody else?
Looking forward budget-wise, with the physical space that you're currently in, is this something that's going to work 5 or 10 years down the road, or do you envision another physical space that will be more adaptations of what you're talking about?
At least for me, the physics space is set. We've got computers in there, and we've got all the lab equipment that we would need. If we were to do more engineering design and like coding and modeling in that case, we would need better computers in the science labs. You wouldn't really want to rely on an iPad if you're trying to program something higher level, like you would be at the level of physics or chemistry.
You reminded me how I squeaked by physics. and that phrase.
Yeah, it seems to be one of two paths. You either love it or you just get through it.
Well, it's good that you have excitement about it, so that makes a difference.
Sweet. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you both. Mr. Wilkinson?
How we doing?
All right. How are you?
Good. All right, most of you guys all know who I am. I'm Mr. Wilkinson. I am the phys ed AD here at Coxsackie-Athens. Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? So we're just going to go over a quick presentation of the fall sports and just discuss a couple of things that we have had highlighted this year and a couple of things that we could work on. So with the boys program up first, right? So I am the head coach of that. We did some good things there this year. We had a few all-stars, had a good overall record, had one of the exciting games of the year here, where we ended up winning our playoff game in a PK shootout. Boys soccer, boys modified soccer, both had somewhat subpar years, but they were learning and they were developing young teams there. Football program, we have two teams. We had the varsity and the modified. We had a new head coach with the varsity team. Their squad did not do so well overall. They were very young. As you can see, there were 11 players that received a varsity letter this year, which is a lot. And then the modified team, coached by Jason Warren, he had a 3-4 record, but overall that's more about development than anything else. Girls soccer program, they struggled as well this year, but they were also young, and they lost a couple key players to injuries. So, but the one thing about the girls program is that they didn't have a JV team this year, which was, you know, a little frustrating for the program. But it's something that they had in the past, but the numbers just weren't there for that team. And then Mary Di Stefano, I said that last night too. She had the modified girls. They had a really good record overall, but again, she had really good numbers too, to work with. The golf program, Leif Roberg, he's been there for a very long time. He's done an excellent job. He wanted to make sure that we recognize Thunderheart tonight because Thunderheart has been very good to them. He is very adamant about making sure that we know that Thunderheart is open their doors to us all the time for whatever we need. And in fact, I host my golf tournament there. But their record was a little subpar, but their roster size was decent for a golf team, but they were also young. The volleyball girls program, we had 3 teams this year, which was very nice. This is one of the first times that we had the girls modified because there was a lot of interest. We had a new coach in place this year. The teams overall were struggled record-wise, but she is someone that I feel like could help turn that program around. She's competitive and she's had quite a bit of experience coaching over in China. And she brings that experience here. So looking forward to that over the next few years. Field hockey, we had 2 teams this year. We didn't have the numbers for a JV team again. And as you can see, Amber was the first-year coach of the varsity team, and I thought she did a tremendous job, even though the record didn't show that. She really brought that team spirit up this year and helped develop their skills. And then Nicole Bliss was at the modified level, and she's done a terrific job. She's been there for a few years. Varsity tennis, we have Anthony Patsky. He's been around for quite some time. They came in 2nd overall this year. They did a tremendous job, and they only lost to Greenville, who I believe was undefeated. So they did a terrific job. And that also comes with numbers. Anthony has a few graduating seniors overall, but the more players that you have, the better off you're going to be, obviously. And he was the beneficiary of that compared to the other tennis teams in our league. And then cross country, they had quite a bit of success. The girls team won the Patroon Conference Championship, and the boys and girls won the Greene County Cup. They had quite a bit of all-stars. Jake Caldwell's doing a tremendous job there with the varsity cross country. And he's building that program each and every year. And then this is one thing that I wanted to make sure that we've noticed on there, because I know that they're out there in the public, there's a little bit of a misconception of our athletes and trying to get athletes to join our CA sports, right? So if you look at this board right now, we're compared to the other Greene County teams. And you look at all the teams that we offer and compare to what they offer and how many participants that we have playing within our school district. And this shows a lot towards our athletic department. It shows a lot towards our coaches. So I wanted to make sure that this is recognized because we do a tremendous job here of trying to get kids involved, especially, at the middle school level with the physical education department, myself and Sarah. And we try to get them involved right away because once they get to 7th grade, they can start joining some teams. So if you look at those numbers overall, I mean, we're far ahead of everybody else. And I don't think it's going to be much of a difference in the coming season here. I mean, Greenville and a couple other ones have an indoor track team, but that we don't offer, but that's not going to make too much of a difference. You'll still see CA up towards the top. Injury report. I mean, we had, I wouldn't say a lot of injuries, but we definitely had some injuries this year. In the high school level, we had, there's 6, 7, 8, 9 on there. So 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we had some big injuries or some key injuries there between concussions and then broken or elbow with the tendon. So we had a couple major injuries that shut down kids throughout the year, a couple of fractures of the elbow or the wrist. Middle school, not as many, but there still were some. And then some things that I want to talk about as my athletic director concerns, I wanted to bring to your attention here. We talk about some low numbers in certain programs: field hockey, girls soccer, golf, girls tennis, and football. we want to try and build those up. We are still pushing. I know I just talked about how our numbers are in a good spot, but at the same time, we're trying to get as many kids involved as possible. There still are kids out there that aren't participating that should. We're trying and figure out ways to do that and tackle it as a phys ed program, and then maybe try and push it through the school with some of the teachers. The athletic fields, I think, was one of our major concerns this year. The athletic field use, the drainage, the safety, the field layout, that was a big concern for me as an athletic director and for the teams that were playing on those fields. They were not ideal, to say the least. We had issues with space, we had issues with the draining, we had issues with practice areas. And, you know, I don't know if there's a simple fix for this, but I think that it just needs to be addressed and talked about. Scoreboard and chaperone needs. One thing that I wanted to establish here as the athletic director is making sure that we had at least one chaperone at every single game. I think that that's important for not only the behavior of our spectators, but behavior of the players, and make sure that there's always somebody around. So that I did have a little bit of a challenge trying to get a couple people that were involved or to get involved, whether it be just having enough or maybe because some people didn't want to work for a low wage, or maybe they just also didn't feel comfortable doing a scoreboard. So we didn't always have a scoreboard up and running for all of our games. So these are issues and concerns that we would like to talk about at a later date, but I just want to at least bring it up. And then this year we had no physical trainer. I tried like heck to try and get a physical trainer in here, but there were just not enough people that had staffing. Between Excel and Top Form and a couple places in Catskill, I reached out to another place in Delmar. They just didn't have enough people to work and to get down here. I did meet again with Ron Annis from Top Form yesterday. He said that there might be an opportunity to get a person in because they were able to hire another player or another physical therapist. So fingers crossed, maybe we can get somebody in. As some of you may know, that I applied for that cafe grant and we were able to turn one of the spare rooms into a physical therapy room. So we are ready and up and running. It's just a matter of getting the right personnel in there. So that's another concern.
Kurt, before you move on, I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you mean with field layout? Can you elaborate what's wrong with it? Because we spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
These fields and the condition, I guess they're not in good condition because of drainage, which we know. I know we've been working on that.
Okay, so let's start with that. So the first thing is this, let's talk about the field that's right next to the parking lot and the tennis court, right? That's like the JV field with the baseball field behind it. So that field right there is when it runs down right towards the tennis court, you'll see it drop off, right? And that was always level at one time, but when we put the new tennis courts in, they had a little issue, whatever that may have been, and it ended up causing the field to kind of drain in that area. So then the whole backside would be soaking wet because that's where the water would run. All right. The field that is the actual varsity field or the old varsity field next to the softball field. So that field is just over time has kind of found its way to where there's pockets, there's slopes. It's not level anymore. When a kid will run, end up stepping down about 6 inches. That's something that happens over time. It just maybe needs to be graded. Maybe it needs a little bit of topsoil, something along that line. But it could be an easy fix, that one. And then the third one is you're talking about, which was the combo field all the way in the back where the old tennis court used to be. So that issue, that field is, you're talking about, which is creating two issues. Now, the field slopes towards the woods, right? So that creates a large pond and a large sediment of water all along that way, and it becomes unusable. And then the fact that it's quite close to the woods, makes it a little bit difficult talking about space to put teams over there. And then because it slopes down on where the old varsity soccer field used to be, they kind of butt up against each other. Now it's higher here, so now it's causing all that water to build up where the soccer goal used to be. Now we had to move that up because of that. So it's a shorter field overall. Those are the three things. And then when you talk about practice space overall, we have the football team kind of practicing out in right field, left field of the baseball field. I mean, it's not ideal. It works. We can get a field in there, but it's not a full field. So it kind of slopes off to the backside where drainage is. And then we talk about the field over here where field hockey is. I mean, they just don't drain at all. And then on the other side of the walkway, that field space where the playground is, and then there's a field behind it. I mean, it's just not level. It's a good practice space, but yeah, I mean, you can't hold any contests there that are ideal.
Softball field. Isn't the softball field not great either? I mean, I know you're soccer and baseball, but the softball field.
The softball field, we just did some work on it. It's in good shape right now. Yeah, it looks good. I mean, it just takes a little, sometimes just takes a little time. No, I don't think there's an issue with that at all. Yeah.
Are you saying the layouts? Forget about the drainage, we understand that.
Mhm.
But are you saying like the placements of the fields are not at a good place since we moved the tennis courts?
I think that we could look into a possible option of maybe shifting things around a little bit. I think that baseball field sitting right in the middle is not ideal, where it could create more space if it was moved. But I mean, I think it just needs some work. You know, if we're going to keep what we have, there needs to be some attention brought towards it. But you know, I think that in one of our past board meetings, we did approve like a survey or something like that along those lines, just to get a better feel and idea of it.
What's that survey again?
It's basically a topographical survey.
For
of the
drainage?
Coxsackie-Athens.
For drainage?
That would be a part of that study. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And this survey would be used when we do another project.
Yes.
We'd be going on this survey as compared to the 20-year-old survey that we used before.
Prior to that, yes.
Kurt, can you talk about a little bit about looking into the future with reconfiguring our fields, the advantages to having some turf field available?
I think that would be
versus grass fields.
well. I mean, I think we brought this up a few years ago with the proposal, right? The capital project, and I've always been a proponent for it because not only for our athletic fields, but for our physical education program, for our recess areas, for multiple things that we could get these kids outside at a longer period of time. I mean, you're talking about in my morning phys ed classes, we can't always get outside because it's so wet and muddy. Or the afternoon, it's usually all right. But I mean, most of the phys ed classes are in the morning, right? So that's just on my end with the phys ed department, with the sports department. I mean, come on, we're talking about the stadium field over here, right? And I'm trying to make sure it's preserved so we can get through a whole season. But if we had a turf program or a turf field, we wouldn't even be talking about what teams get on there. It's about when we could get those teams on there because everybody would be able to get on there. You know, it's you're talking about some certain things where as a AD, I have to think about teams that are making like playoffs and have an opportunity to play at home. And I wouldn't want our stadium field to be, crap in October because we overused it, and then a playoff game is, I mean, it would be embarrassing in that situation. You know what I'm saying? So, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Turf would eliminate most of that.
And I think we're seeing more community involvement or community use of our fields.
Yeah, and if you really wanted to expand it, we could do that. We're talking about, you start talking about the flag football league, right? They could be coming in here and using that anytime. You're talking about holding sectionals events and then making revenue off of it. You could have leagues coming in here, like Henry Hudson stuff like that be using it without having to worry about fields and rain and stuff like that. I mean, it could be a community thing, it could be a revenue thing, it could, there's many benefits to that. And I don't know if you've been noticing, but there's a lot of schools around us doing the exact same thing. They're seeing the writing on the wall. We had the opportunity to kind of get in there first. It's okay. We'll just try it again next time around. All right. Coaches' concerns were really somewhat what I had said about the field. And I'm sure you guys have got this presentation, but we're talking about, the mowing and the painting, the rotation, drainage issues, for field drainage on another one. And then there was another one talking about mowing. And that just brings me to just a point of, we have one guy, we used to have two guys outside, doing a lot of the work, and whether we can bring somebody else in part-time for seasonal, or, the option of having somebody else around might be able to alleviate some of the stress on Ethan out there to get everything done as well as the property maintenance. But I think that he's done a good job, but there's always things that are taking the back burner, right? Sometimes it's the mod teams and not getting down their paint or cutting their lawns because he's spending so much time getting game fields ready and so forth. Those are types of concerns the coaches have. Potential upgrades, getting a multi-purpose turf field, we just talked about that. Updating current fields, we talked about that. And then a second outdoor maintenance worker, just to discuss that. New proposed and updated program. So there's a couple good things that are going on around here. So I talked about this in my coaches meeting for anybody that was able to attend that last night when we meet the coaches. We talked about how we're going to get this service here that I proposed, and Randy was very approval of that, wanted to bring it upon us and help out. And this is called Huddle Assist. It's a huddle program where we're going to have a camera in our main gym, and we're going to have a camera on the outdoor field, and we're going to be able to stream games as well as use that for the coaches. It's a program to allow them to upload their videos. They will digest that, spit statistics out at us, and make sure that they are all in the know about what they need to know with their team. Each team is going to have up to 100 hours to record game times, and we'll do our best getting everybody in there and being able to get on a stream for the community to see. GoFan was a proposal that we talked about, but after a couple meetings, we decided to nix that. In fact, with the approval from Randy, we decided to nix charging at the door altogether for the community. I think that would be a nice thing, that we just open up the doors and allow community to come to the games, because we were only charging at a couple of them anyways. And I think that was beneficial, will be beneficial. The Riverhawk Fitness Club, this is another proposal that I have. So just to get you guys updated here, what we're doing with the phys ed department is we're applying for this grant, which is called Platform. And we want to utilize this weight room, and we want to make sure that we start getting teams in the weight room more often, right? So how are we doing this? Hopefully it'll be coming through soon, but we are trying to make sure that we utilize this for our student athletes. One of the things that I proposed and talked to Mr. Squire about was we're basically getting hiring a supervisor, and we get somebody that might come in from like 12 to 4, supervise the kids. So it doesn't always have to be just a phys ed teacher there, someone that's first aid CPR certified and that maybe weight training certified, that could be there to help instruct. And that way kids on their study halls that are on the honor roll can come down, kids in their lunch can come down, and it wouldn't have to always be the phys ed department utilizing that and having to be in 2 spaces at once, right? Sometimes that has to be the problem. The other part of it is part of opening up and making it more open to the public, from the hours of, say, 4 to 8, right? Start getting more people involved, getting more community in here, utilizing that weight room. We have some good stuff in there, and we're trying to build on it every year. And maybe this would be something, if we can show that we're using it, we're building upon it, and we're making sure that not only of our students are using it, but community are using it. This might be something in the future to talk about with a building project, to actually have a weight room and then turn that what is weight room into a multi-purpose space, you know, that we could always use. So just something down the road. And then the final thing here is the Booster Club. As you can see with the Booster Club, we so far, if anybody has been around, we've tried to build it up and get more people involved with it. The Mozilla family took it over. I've been helping and hands-on with them, trying to get people involved. We're going to be using the Booster Club to help build up community and school spirit around here, get people involved. One of my goals next year is to turn our homecoming that we've had in the past completely upside down, because I think that we can do a much better job at that and really make it a community thing. And this is where the Booster Club will be involved, as well as one of the plans that I already have for them is that they're going to be buying the seniors every single year a banner that we can have their name and their face on and celebrate for their senior day, and something that they can keep to take home, as well as other little spirit things that are prideful things around this community and with our athletic program. So one of the last things I want to show you is my Jersey Your Impact, right? I don't know if you've been able to see that. I'm going to share a couple of pictures, not all of them, but I took every single senior this year, and what I did with them is it had them take their jersey and go to a staff member, teacher, aide, kitchen worker, anyone along those lines, and really give them their jersey to hang or to be in their office for that day, and just show the appreciation of what they did for that student or being there for that student. So these were a couple of people. Oh, Gabe's back here. Hey, Gabe. And that's that. So that's my presentation. My first one. Anything?
One, I don't think I'd ever seen a list of injuries before.
Mm-hmm.
So that was concerning to me that there were so many and they were very severe.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Want to do?
I wouldn't consider them so many. We have
Okay, see, I don't know.
we have a lot of teams playing and a lot of athletes. Out of 252 athletes, I wouldn't say that there were a lot. There were definitely some that may have serious. Yes.
I think it's something to look at. I don't like track like you
Mhm.
just did, like
Yeah.
over time.
Well, that's just something that I wanted to be able to put together, have
Yeah.
something, and then, you know, utilize it. As far as where are we from year to year? I mean, this is the first time I've used this data too. So I guess we'll compare it to future years
Yeah.
and see where we're at. Some of those injuries that you saw there probably couldn't have been prevented with a physical therapist, but I'm sure that there were a couple nagging injuries this year that weren't on that board that could have maybe been prevented with a physical therapist in our building.
I think the other thing, as we start talking about the budget, I would think that we would appreciate you coming back, because there's so many specifics here that I think we'd be interested in, right? Looking
Right,
at.
yeah. And there's always like the issue, and I know you're new in this position, but the going through the equipment and figuring out what teams need what. And even like the whole uniform thing, like I get it. I feel blessed that I can afford to pay what I need to pay for Tristan to play in sports and what have you, but this is a public school, so how it really bothers me.
With uniforms?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about that. So what I did this year so far is I am now taking, I'm a little bit of a control freak, right? So the uniforms, like I cleared out this entire closet that was useless, right? It wasn't being used. So now every single coach has to report to me for the uniforms. I'm gonna have a lock and key on the system. With Leslie's approval, what she ended up doing is helping buy some shelving, some new bins, labeled them, every coach, starting with the fall, making its way through. I'm gonna have a thing that says how many uniforms are in there before they get it, and then when they return it, it's gonna have that same number on it. So those are one thing. So as we are shifting through this whole progression of to the Riverhawks and so forth, I mean, it may take a couple of years here, so don't get me wrong, but everything will be more organized. Let's put it that way. But if you ever want to talk about baseball hats, I'm always willing to.
I have to say, I really like the thought and attention you're giving this, because I just always thought the AD just scheduled a few games and that would make sure that.
Well, I'll tell you what, there are some ADs that I work with right now that do that. And so it is a little frustrating when you're trying to work with another AD that's not on the same level.
The attention, you just brought the attention to a lot of things.
Okay, thank you. I
Nice.
appreciate it. Is that it?
Thank you. So we got to go back in our agenda. Oh, the previous meeting, Randy, would that be your notification protocol?
Yeah. Just from comments from the last meeting, we talked with Mrs. Miller, Mr. Martino, reviewing how we would notify if we have a positive case in an elementary classroom, a K for elementary classroom. So we had once, I don't think since the last meeting, but or maybe one. But when we do, we are going to attempt to let that classroom know. In other words, so certainly if the kid is within contact trace, they will be letting them know they have to quarantine, for 10 days. But for the other kids in the classroom and adults in the classroom, if they're not exposed, they'll be notified in that way. In other words, yeah, it was in that classroom, but your child does not have to quarantine. Hopefully that'll help. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait to see how parents react to that. So our K-4 classrooms are small enough where it wouldn't take us a long time to do that. I mean, our K-4 classes are 15 kids or less for the most part. So we think we can manage that and get that communication out over time when it occurs. It's usually on a Saturday or Sunday.
Okay, good. I know that was one of the concerns parents raised. So moving to committee reports. The Superintendent Evaluation Committee. Maureen.
Okay, we met as a board and went over Randy's goals, and then we met with Randy and, talked about them all together. And then I'm just waiting for Randy to come back with the final set of goals that we can all agree on as a board and Randy together so we can move forward. Anything else?
Nope.
Liaison.
We've been meeting weekly to try to continue the rebranding of the mascot. We're working with the VIP branding company, and we are working towards the final product. We have a set date goal of December 1st. So we're hoping right after Thanksgiving, we can do some sort of sports and school announcement and reveal of the mascot. Any questions?
Thank you. Innovation Committee.
The Innovation Committee met this past Monday. It was a 2-hour meeting. The members are Maureen, David, Michael, and myself as chair. Also in attendance was Randy as superintendent and Carrie as the curriculum coordinator. It was a 2-hour spirited discussion on reconfiguration. And we weren't able to come to any consensus either against reconfiguration or moving forward right now. We felt as a committee that we still need more information. We were hoping to have a survey out and some results back by this time. Unfortunately, we ran into some delays because there was a concern to have an outside independent agency help us coordinate the survey and calculate the results. We did reach out, or Randy reached out to the New York, on our advice, reach out to New York State School Boards Association to see if they could participate in this and help us out with that. Unfortunately, they could help us with the questions, but not tally any results for us. Randy did look into any private polling companies as well. Unfortunately, that cost was prohibited for the numbers they gave back for us. So Randy reached out to Questar-Bosse's this week, and they've agreed to help us with that endeavor. So we do have questions that have been formulated and will go out. I think the questions are pretty good as far as they're more open-ended. And so respondents in the district can write a little narrative if they want and answer those questions and give us any suggestions or ideas. So once that information comes back to the committee, we'll review it, and hopefully we can make some recommendation to the board in the month of December on that. Also, a part of the data and information we're looking for is something that INA had brought up to our attention, is to do a census of new home buyers since 2019 to the present, and see what preschool children may be in that household, so we can kind of forecast any new students coming into our district. And as you know, we do have a shortage of kids to fill up the EJA in Athens. So we continue to look at ways to correct that problem and give equality to all students in both the Coxsackie campus and the Athens campus. Also, we did take up a little discussion on anti-bullying measures. And David Taylor to my left had mentioned, I thought was good, was that because of COVID, a lot of kids were home during COVID, and that set them back socially and emotionally in many areas. And that could be one factor into what may cause some triggers in any bullying that takes place. But we're going to be taking on those anti-bullying measures more and more as we go out through the year, and hopefully we can bring some recommendations to the board at the meetings the rest of the year. That's it.
Thank you, Barry. Policy committee?
Oh, I think that's me again. We're looking at adding a social media policy. We currently have social media part that's attached to like the code of conduct for staff, but we're looking for something a little bit more specific to try to help with the personal Facebook or social media accounts versus the professional social media accounts, just so that there's kind of guidance for everybody. So for example, we talked about how some coaches may have like their own account, but they also may have one for the sports that they are. So we're, this policy will help to try to give them a path to be able to keep them in that for lots of different reasons. We also talked about the procedure for complaints about a text or instructional material that a parent may have for their child. There is a form that they can fill out, and now we're looking at adding a procedures to make sure that it is followed through. If a complaint comes in, it will go through the teacher and then work its way up to, it can come to us at some point if the parent feels that it's not being addressed, but there will be like a line of other people to go through first.
I have a question, Bart, actually, about the innovation committee. I guess I'm just very, very frustrated because we've been asking for the survey for over 3 months now, I believe.
Since July, I think.
And it just keeps getting pushed out, pushed out. We keep asking for information that we're not getting. We were not afforded the same courtesy when we asked for during the mascot debate. We asked for information that we were not allowed to have, and we have to vote.
we later found out that a gentleman wanted to speak to us, and he actually sent us a letter that we did not get until 2 months later. So I'm very frustrated. That email you. How much more are we going to be pushing this out? Are we really sending out the survey?
The other thing too is that it just seems as though there's a new reason why we need to reconfigure, like it changes. Like the reason evolves, like there's a reason. And then the board doesn't give the feedback that is, I guess, desired. And so then there's a new reason the next meeting. So it's just, it is a little frustrating, and this should have been taken care of.
Right, and then who's getting the results? Like, with the mascot, the board got the results, the innovation, or the liaison committee got the results. Is the innovation committee getting the results?
Well,
So
it's gonna go,
before everybody
through
else?
Westar BOCES is gonna do the data collection, correct, Randy?
Yeah, and they'll send the whole.
And they're gonna
board.
provide that, and that's something that you requested, was an outside independent
Yeah.
agency conduct that.
Right, and that we get the results before probably the administration, because it's your committee, your innovation committee, just like the mascot. I only think that's fair.
I'm not sure. Well, I trust that the information is gonna go to the district office, and it's gonna be provided to the committee and to the board. I mean,
I just want all the information.
I'm sorry?
I want all the information. I don't want it sorted out
Or filter.
At the
or
same
filtered.
time. Same thing.
Right. I'm worried it's gonna get filtered. That's all.
Yeah.
But I think that's a committee's role, because that's what we did with the.
Right,
With
the
the
committee's role,
mascot.
not administration.
No, but that's what, yeah, that's what we would do. It's, not- I don't think that, I don't.
It
think
hasn't
that
been
that's-
past practice.
Right.
I don't know, with the
So,
mascot, did they
just-
filter everything?
I got the results for everything and shared it with the entire board. You guys all got it at the same time as the liaison committee.
Right.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
thought, so I just, assumed that with the innovation committee, we would receive the results. I don't think there's a lot of, I don't know, fiddling with it. It's just,
Yeah, we'll have
Okay.
Westar send the results directly to Bart. And then
Yeah.
innovation committee, and then I'll forward it to everybody else.
Fine.
Thank you.
Did we pass over public input?
No, it's.
No, it's still-
3 pages in.
Well, we have two. Do we have one public input or two on the agenda?
2, but the first one is like, let's see. On page 4.
Well, I got it on page 1 of my agenda.
I didn't page 1 in my
That's
user.
prior meetings.
From prior, like you just have to make that.
Follow up from previous regular meeting.
that's not current public input.
Right, did we do that already? We didn't, I missed
For
it.
the previous ones. We haven't done the one tonight yet, obviously.
That one's on page 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the people here. Is that what you're
So
saying?
should we let them speak, because it's already 8:15, and then.
Well, we're meeting held in public, not a public meeting, and we've had plenty of opportunities for different subjects. When you come to it, you can engage with us and talk. Right now, we're trying to have our meeting, and,
Just out of courtesy.
okay, no, that's fine, but this is not, this is what we have to sit through. We have to sit through all this at our meetings. It's not just about, what you guys have to
We
say.
didn't actually.
No, that's all right, you can just wait your turn. Well, I don't have to say.
Was it?
What? No, that's fine. No,
It was my fault, sorry. I brought it up.
From the previous meeting.
Yeah. All right.
Just like, I'm clear on this. When it says follow up from previous meeting, that does not include public input That doesn't include public input. Comment on items from a previous meeting or no?
It could, yeah.
And so you brought that up. You asked that question, right?
Which one?
If the public had any.
No,
it's not to
it's
that.
not like, it's like, let's say somebody can ask, why do we paint the cafeteria this color? And so we come back to the next meeting and say, well, we painted this color because it was cheaper than painting pink.
All right, I thought it was an opportunity for the public to see.
It's for us to come back and report back. Somebody's asking for information, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Board of Ed priorities, bullying reporting.
So in your packets was just a summary of from the handbook and also the procedures at the middle school, high school, and also the elementary level. If anyone sees or wants to report any type of bullying or harassment, and so there's it's there for your information at this time. It's constantly being reviewed by the teachers and administration. You know, and constantly looking for ways to make sure everybody knows where they can go and can safely report when they see bullying or harassment or intimidation taking place in the schools or around the schools. So just for your information at this point, I know we're going to talk about this a lot more throughout the years in that regard. You know, I'll use one of our presentation meetings with principals and such to sit here and have a little bit deeper conversation about it.
As I read that protocol, and it was basically everybody should report, students, staff, kids, parents, everybody should report. And I wondered if there should be an emphasis on staff reporting and not, I mean, they're covered under the group, but should there be an emphasis on staff reporting? Maybe we talk about this in the innovation committee, I don't know, but that puts it in place that staff must report. And it's not, it says everybody should, but it should, staff must report. And that triggers the investigation. So it just gives it more expectation that people are following up. And I don't, it could be part of the documentation that goes into the investigation even. So that there's a trail. So that we don't hear, you know, Johnny's been bullied for 10 years and nobody said anything, you know, so we start to get an express expectation that it gets reported and then it's documented. So I would just suggest that. I don't know if we want to, as we look into this, and I think maybe we can come back to it, and maybe if we came back to it in mid-year, and that might be next month, but if we looked at numbers that people are seeing of incidents and where they are. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that? All right. Facebook Live Town Hall summaries.
So again, one of the board priorities is to expand the qualified community staff connections, just so something else is going to start and kind of give a monthly update. So just quickly, this is in your packet. I have my monthly Facebook town hall. Somewhere that's up or down at 50 live viewers. You can see the total reach there. Just some Facebook analytics for the previous month. You can see how many engagements there were, how many people were reached, etc. Not surprisingly, when the video is posted, there's a lot more views than just either a text post or even a picture post for that. Try to do short videos. I do a monthly update as well via S'more, so you can see how many people are engaged with those updates for each of the months going forward there as well. So, and then, you know, provide another report next month. I'll also look at some of the stuff the principals send out as well. Of course, it's actually a smaller reach, but they're going sending it out to their building. But we'll take a look at that as well. I have to look for different ways to increase our presence on social media, positive presence on social media. Frank is now at full strength in tech services. He is on call. So if anybody has an event at the school, they can really put a ticket in and say like, oh, we got the alphabet parade, for instance, we had last week. He can come down and take pictures and video and get it up on social media. Because previously it was up to principals to do that. And of course, they're running the alphabet parade, or in it. So it just makes it ability to push that out more often to our communities. We can see all the good stuff going on in our schools. Positive stuff going on.
Okay. Stand up. The leadership team? Yeah, okay.
So just a couple updates for testing of non-vaccinated employees. Like this is state law. Right now, we plan to begin testing of unvaccinated employees. That includes all our employees, substitutes, and any bus drivers that work for us through First Student. That should begin the week of November 29th. Right now, it looks like we will be every Monday. So the 29th would be our first day doing this. We are working with Questar 3 BOCES to, they'll be supplying the nurse and the kits and everything. So they'll come in, they'll be here on this campus for a few hours, and they'll go down to E.J. Arthur. Not as long, because not people down there certainly to be there to provide as a courtesy the tests, the COVID tests, rapid antigen tests for that. So if employees are unwilling to get tested, they have a week to provide a test result from a medical provider or pharmacy. It cannot be a take-home test. And then if not, that Monday, then they would go on unpaid leave. At that point, that's the law. So, so that's just, everybody's aware of that, and we'll communicate specifically to each individual employee next week as well. We won't start students right away, unvaccinated students, where we have parental consent. The state law also said we are to offer it to students whose parents want their unvaccinated students. We do have a large number of parents who have requested that. We want to get going with the employees first before we add on the students as well. So that'll kick in, I'm estimating, right before Christmas. One other just development on this topic is we've been waiting for quite a while for these, but we anticipate the arrival, hopefully by Monday, of molecular testing equipment that will allow, we want in each building in our nurse's office, that will allow our nurses to do a COVID test for students or staff who are presenting symptoms but haven't been exposed. So the third grader who's got the sniffles and et cetera, right now they're sent down to the nurse's office. Oftentimes they're sent home because that's one of the COVID symptoms until they can get a test at Kelly's or wherever. That can now be done here with parental consent. And if the test comes back negative, right, then they're allowed to go back to class at that point. So I think that'll be a huge relief for a lot of parents and kids. They won't have their kids at home waiting for test results. It's about a 15-minute wait for the results.
The cost associated with this, do we have any numbers?
All being paid for through federal, state grants and aid. So it's not cost the local, well, it's not cost the local tax dollars. So it's not coming out of our general fund. Just new hires, our new high school principal, Bill Barrow, he'll start on Monday. Right, so Dr. Fernandez, his last day is tomorrow. We appreciate his service here the last quarter. My secretary superintendent, Elizabeth Liberty, she started this week, as well as Allie in tech services. So tech services is finally full strength as well for that. So we're excited there. On our agenda, we have another teacher position we're filling as part of the pre-K expansion. Also on the agenda is the district clerk, which is an hourly stipend position. So it's,
You changed the name on there.
well, I think that's the civil service term, district clerk, yeah. Board clerk, board of education, district clerk.
Civil services. Okay.
So, and you'll notice we have a decent number of subs to put on here. Still never enough. So if anybody wants a substitute, we're always looking for substitutes in our building, at all places. Cleaners, custodians, food service, teachers, aides. We need everybody in the whole state and the country needs substitutes. Also, just point out though, we're fortunate that our bus drivers who work for First Student have been very reliable, consistent. I'm sure you've seen the papers where some schools had to shut down in the capital region because they don't have enough bus drivers. Either they get sick or they have no sub bus drivers. So we're shout out to our bus drivers at First Student for being here every day. We're definitely thankful for that. I just wanted to put out that we have an opportunity, just the board's blessing, I'd like to have a 1 hour early dismissal on Friday, December 15th. Right, so NICA could come in, 17th, I'm sorry, Friday, 17th. To allow NICA to come in and do a 1 hour professional development for our entire staff and social media use. Kind of goes along with the policy we're looking at as well. So it'll just be a 1 hour early dismissal. For kids who have sports, they can stay here, make a sports study hall. And they would roll right after that. So it wouldn't be much different for them, it'd be like 10th period for that office hours. So we just like to do that. Mark Dwyer from NICE will be the one doing the training for all of our staff on that day. So, also, I'd like just, I think I'm having words here. Just want to, we conversations with teachers and staff. Like I put out a couple, September, October, about how we're already feeling June tired here. We're only in the fall. And so I think it's important that we recognize that, and we, for a better way to say, have an official expectation or forgiveness for all of our employees to say, turn it off, right? And not have an expectation for our teachers to be answering emails now at 8:30 at night, or on a Sunday afternoon or Saturday night. Now we know some of our teachers, they'll do it anyway, all right, because that's who they are. All right, but I think it's important that we can send a message to say that we don't expect, it's not our expectation that you're on 24/7. Because they need to have a chance to find balance in their lives, to spend time with their families, and not feel that they always need to respond to emails or whatever for that. So again, with the board's blessing, if you will, I'd just like to kind of put that in writing a little bit, parents and such, and just say, they're going to get back to you. Right? Just kind of give them 24 hours of the weekend, the kind of thing in that regard, so we can allow our faculty and staff and everybody to have their time as well, and not us kind of keep impeding in it. Thoughts on that, or is that okay? Or?
Does that include administration?
Yes. At least amongst ourselves. So, yes.
Well, I do have.
I mean, we're on call in the sense of, if we get county calls, we're still got to deal with emergencies and things like that. So, within ourselves, we're not going to bother. So.
Okay. But I think we need to reach you.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Well, yes. I'm on.
You're on.
Never turned off. Talk to my family. They know.
Right.
Just wanted to update this, something that's working on here. It's more, not really school late, but it is. Trying to create a pedestrian loop on the south side of the village here. And yes, because I see lots of people walking by my house all the time, and oftentimes weaving into the yard and the ditch and get hit by a car on Farm to Market. So I put out to the county, the town, and the village, because to make the loop, and Maureen knows this, walking and running it, you're in 3 different municipalities if you get all the way around. And to finish off that loop with a pedestrian lane on Farm to Market and Stacy, and then extend the sidewalks down on our property all the way down to the end of Sunset, which would also benefit our students who are coming out of the apartments down here. And then there's no place for them to walk, especially in the winter, for that. So the village is on board with it. The county's looking at it. Town has not been as receptive, but we'll work on that. At this point, I just want you to be aware of that. We want to connect it to our nature trail, as well as be able to connect this to the proposed nature trails and walking paths that will be part of the solar farm on the flat property on that end. And the village also wants to connect to our nature trail over off of Mansion, connected over to the McQuaid Park. Across the street. So you want to kind of create a little bit of a trail system throughout the village here. So this is something we're just working on the side as well to promote fitness and wellness within our community and safety for our people who walk along. Yeah.
All right, I want to thank those of you who would like to speak to us for waiting. I know it's been 2 hours, so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit so we could just move into that piece. So.
Mike, signed up the form, so they were listed on Google Form, so they signed up early online.
So
I'm not sure if they're here.
Oh, okay. Would Jean and Gabriel Hogland be here? Hogland, I'm sorry.
They're here. Yeah, I see them.
Would you like to come up? Sorry about your name.
Good evening. My name is Gabe Hoagland. I am a senior at Coxsackie-Athens. My mother, Jean, and I would like to briefly comment on the new college seminar class being offered in our high school. I have been a student in this class since the beginning of the year, and its objective has been to prepare me for college in regards to the application process, finances, and overall all the aspects of college life. I didn't have a lot of expectations coming into this course. I was ready to learn, but I have to say that my expectations have long been exceeded. The course has provided me with the vocabulary and the knowledge to be able to navigate through the complicated world of the application process. And I find that I'm far ahead of my other peers who have been underprepared. So I am grateful that this class is being offered, and we would like to continue to advocate that this class is pushed for our students. It has been incredibly beneficial, and we hope that this feedback helps you.
To follow up with Gabe, first, I'd like to congratulate Leslie for her official retirement coming up soon. Thank you for the board. I know this is time away from your family as a mom here tonight. I too would like to thank you guys for having this class be something that was offered. As a new experienced college mom having to go through all this, I had no idea how to head this off. And the fact that he came home and he was doing his cover letters, he was doing his resumes, he had deadlines, he was meeting all of those. He's since been accepted to several great colleges. He's excited about it. He keeps actually applying to even more as he sees the opportunities that are available to him. But this class really has given him that independence that I think a lot of our seniors and a lot of our children might not have yet. And this was very eye-opening for all of us to say, you know, this is what you are going to be expected to do. I'm not going to be able to be there to do it for you. I can give you my tax returns to do the FAFSA, and that's about it. I actually sent his dad to take care of that. So I go on the tours with him because I like to do that. But thank you again. And my one request, I'm wishing that this class had been offered in his junior year at the end, because it might have pushed us to do more college tours, that there might have been other things that we could have done and preset prior to taking it as a senior. So I think it would be most advantageous to have this offered in the spring for the juniors. I think that is just something that has to be done, and it would be so beneficial, and it would open up more classes for more students. So thank you.
I think it's done. I think we're doing it this spring.
But you will be missed. I do have to give a shout out to Mr. Palmer all around. He's been great for all of my kids. So thank you, and congratulations to you as well.
How many
Thank
other, here's a question, how many other classmates are in the class with you?
I would say it's within 15 to 20.
Thank you.
It's a large class relatively.
Any other questions?
So what schools are you applying to?
I've applied to 20 schools.
Oh, good.
Good job.
Yeah, right, placing application.
Well, The teacher of this class has been posting copies of our acceptance letters on the walls.
Nice.
So, my goal is to have them.
Nice, nice.
Yes, I've applied to a variety of private schools and state university schools. And we have also learned the benefits of private universities and state universities, how they offer different scholarships, how to determine which school is best for us by comparing them using the internet, statistics, and how to properly research those schools.
Wow, terrific.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and consideration. Have a good day.
What's the last name? Sharon?
Sharon McHugh.
Okay, Sharon McHugh here.
She and I corresponded a bit. It was questions about vaccine clinics.
Okay.
So I believe I wasn't sure she was gonna be here.
I think she's watching. It says that she raised
Oh,
her hand.
go ahead. Okay.
She can't- I don't think she-
No. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, talk to Leslie. Sharon. Shapressa? Elsani?
Hello.
Hello.
I'll try to go as quick as I can. I know it looks like I have a lot, but I have some stuff that I need photocopies of. Kind of want to go out of order. I wanted, since we touched on the reconfiguration piece of it, I'm not going to spend an awful amount of time on it, but I do have some questions. Obviously, everyone here knows that the Village of Athens opposed it, the grade regrouping, right? We all can agree to that. They felt that the information was skewed. They expressed concern over that this could be a first step in closing down EJA. And I know Mr. Squire has said that, you know, it wouldn't be possible to close down the Athens school because the Coxsackie campus wouldn't have enough space to accommodate all the students in the district. But if you look in the updated proposal on October 2021, it specifically states that all the students could be housed on the Coxsackie campus as of right now. So I think that's where the disconnect is, where the majority of the people are against it because it's, you know, we're calling this reconfiguration, realignment, grade regrouping, whatever you want to call it today, because it lacks transparency. It's just not the right time to do it. I know I said that before. You know, nobody here really wants it, but we continue to push with the proposal. And, you know, it's like the saying goes, sometimes you just like I have to tell my children, you need to understand what the word no means. It just, this has been an ongoing battle for months and months and months. And also the piece of, well, let's do a vote on it. And I have a question about that as well. So we're going to use Questar BOCES, right? Is that true and correct? So Mr. Squire, doesn't your wife work for Questar BOCES? Okay. Conflict of interest. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about transparency. I have some questions about reconfiguration as well. How many classes per grade level? No.
Well, you could submit your questions.
I'm sorry?
You could submit your questions.
Okay, but what about, can you show us like a map of on EJA and how that'll all fit in, along with the self-contained special education room, music, art, the increased RTI support, the motor lab, the Skokies room, and the birth and pre-K room for parents?
Can you submit the questions in writing? Yeah.
Okay, but none of these can be answered right now. So even though we've had a million forums, and can you understand where I'm going with it? I mean, the public deserves to see all this planned out on a map.
I'll put my name on it and I will submit my questions because I think that's important. Because how can we? This is just too much. It's just really stressful on the parents to have to keep on doing this. And then I would also like to address the board member who felt compelled to write a letter to the editor of our local paper. I understand my time. I will do it as quickly as I possibly can. I sat here respectfully and listened to every single thing, correct? Okay. So I want to understand why this person is responsible to continue to say that only 8 people show up to the board meeting.
I'd say it's me, and
I know who it is.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying
I know who it
eight is number, I'm
Okay.
hyperbolizing.
Okay. Well, there's more than 8 people here tonight.
I
isn't
know,
there?
but is every single person speaking about the same thing?
Okay.
So, no, okay, this is Trevor's time.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, listen, I'm not trying to cause an argument here, but you kind of brought that out.
Yeah, that's okay, you know, we've had opportunities, come and speak.
Absolutely. So you also made a comment about that this is a public meeting a bit. Doesn't have to be, you know, public input doesn't need to be provided, but you guys
But
do.
it does not,
Okay.
in New York State, you do not have to provide public input, but we do.
Okay, well, I think you need to relook at that because the open meeting law states that the public has the right to attend meetings of public bodies, which this is. Excuse me, I have the floor right now.
Your time is up.
Let's go 30 seconds.
All these other people. that
All right,
need to
hang on,
speak,
And
hang
I
on.
sat here
Let's
and
go.
listened to every
Let's
single
go.
person. And you're being
Trevor.
bullied and you're being disrespectful
Oh,
right now.
that's right, oh, yeah.
And I'm going to continue.
Okay.
Go ahead, let's.
So the open meeting law.
Wrap it, 30 seconds. We got 30, go.
The public has the right to attend meetings of public bodies and listen to debate and watch the decision-making process with the exception of executive session. I encourage you to find that information on the New York State website. So I will say this, at last month's board meeting, you weren't even present. There were well more than 8 people. No, you weren't, because I was.
No, I was.
The Board of Education welcomes the public media, or the public and the media to all board meetings. And that the section of the meeting will be opened up for public comment, questions, and questions will be answered immediately if possible. The
Okay,
questions asked, I'm almost done.
you're pressing my time button.
I
Let me just say
understand.
this, Trevor,
Trust
we are committed to public input.
Okay.
We want people here, so,
But-
you know, please.
But what I'm saying is that the questions that I do ask, that if they're not, these are important questions. These are questions that people have.
Yeah.
And there is no engagement. There is no sincerity. There is no show of concerns when it's raised by us. And I find it disturbing yet comical that when we do show that, we're called bullies. We, the parents, the taxpayers, and community members are the ones who let you in. That means we vote you in.
Okay, we need to stop
Okay.
now. All right.
Okay, we're done.
Who's next?
1,100 kids we represent, not just your kids.
Okay, I understand that, but you
All
know
right,
what?
I-
You're disrespectful. It's your duty to listen to the public
Okay,
and
we
the
need to
input.
stop and
Now,
move
we're
on.
done. You have to be respectful of the
More-
rules,
more-
okay?
We all need to stop and move on. All right.
The continuing comments by this board member is inaccurate, divisive,
We
and
can't
incompetent.
Okay,
keep
next,
going.
who's next, Mike?
We can't.
So
keep
anyway,
going.
long
If you
story
submit
short,
it in writing, we can all read it.
if I submit this in writing, you do nothing with it. So why would I submit
Well,
it in
that's-
writing? I'll
that's-
submit my questions and
Okay,
I expect, I'll put my name and my email address and I do expect a response back.
okay. Is Chris Chimento here? Chris, hello. Good.
Good time. My name is Chris Schmidt. Good evening. I'm an ex-school board member, so I know some of you before. I'm here because when I sat on the board, it was always helpful when people came and talked to us rather than just submitting letters. My wife and I did submit letters the other day. It was in support of Randy as first superintendent and the work that you all do. I know Randy from my work on the board, and my wife knows him from her work at the Cafe Gala board as well as on committee meetings. And we also know him as our neighbor. We socialize together you know, in the community. And I'm here to report, there's nothing negative I have to say, but I can say a lot of positive things about what goes on here at Coxsackie-Athens. I have two daughters in high school. They've been to school here all along. We think they're getting an excellent education, and I realize that has a lot to do with a lot of people in this room and outside of this room right now. My daughters enjoy coming to school. I think it's a good place to be. We have massive amounts of communication from the school. There's never a lack of it. I know everything from the goals you have for their education, down to when caps are due, the money for caps for graduation are due, and everything in between. Communication is all the time. If you go to any of the sporting events, the concerts, you can find Randy in the back. It's there, it's available, checking on things. I know what you all did during the pandemic was amazing. It was a gift, at least as a parent and to my daughters. We opened much earlier, I believe, than many communities around us. I know my daughters struggled with distance learning. My wife and I think we're stretched pretty thin as parents, working parents, and managing all of that. I was told that teachers didn't love it. And I believe the communities around us were closed for a lot longer than we were. And I think that was real leadership on many of all of your part. That was scary times, and it was serious. And that's worth something. I think right now there's a lot of negativity going on in the community. It's hard to listen to. I don't think it's great for our children's education. I don't think it's good for them just as children. I imagine it makes your meetings less productive. I guess I'm here to say there's a contingent of the community that thinks you're all doing a good job. We think the community is, or that the school is going in a good direction. Your drainage issues notwithstanding, campus is the best I've ever seen it. And like I said, their educations are awesome. I just want you to realize that there is a contingent of us out there who believe that the school is going in the right direction, that education is going well. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Elise Young.
Good evening. My name is Elise Young. My husband and I and our 3 kids live in Athens. I don't know if you noticed some of the shoes outside when you walked in, but I just wanted to explain what that's about. There's a statewide initiative happening tonight, mainly, called Operation Shoe Drop. And parents who are opposed to a mandatory COVID vaccine for their children in order to attend school have donated their shoes for a visual display, so you can see the parents who, kind of a sampling of the parents who would be withdrawing their children from school if there was a mandate, COVID vaccine mandate. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there is a bill in the assembly that was introduced by Assemblyman Dinowitz. It's A8378. Assemblyman Dinowitz also introduced a bill in 2019 that profoundly impacted my family. And it was a bill that at the time I didn't think was going to go anywhere, and I didn't do anything about it. And in a matter of 8 hours, the bill passed the Health Committee in the New York State Senate, the Health Committee in the New York State Assembly, both houses, and was signed by the governor. If there is a political will to get something done in Albany, it will get done. One bad sign so far for this bill is that the chair of the Assembly Health Committee, Dick Godfrey, has already signed on to the bill, which means it's pretty much guaranteed to pass the Assembly Health Committee and go to the floor for a vote, even though currently, for some reason, there's no official same as bill in the Senate. Senator Brad Hoylman has already publicly announced that he's proposing a bill to mandate, to basically add the COVID vaccine to the childhood immunization schedule for kids to attend school. So it's something that's out there. It's gaining steam. The first day of session is January 6th. There's going to be a large number of parents going to Albany fighting against this. Anyone who wants to get the COVID vaccine for their kids is welcome to. But there are a lot of parents who don't believe it's the state's right to mandate it for all children in order to attend school. So I want to read to you just a couple of the notes that parents left outside with their sneakers, but the ask of you is to please write letters to the governor, write to, Assemblyman Dinowitz, write to our senator and I know Assemblyman Tagg as opposed to the mandate, but Senator Hinchey could definitely use some, communications about this to kind of encourage her to vote against it if it comes up to a vote. Please fight for our kids, no vaccine mandates. I will homeschool my kids first, no mandates. The prints of these shoes remain in the school, but I cannot. Please fight for our right to go to school, no vaccine mandate. My child, my choice. I do not co-parent with the government. I am the future. I deserve an education too. Stop the mandate. I am standing up for my freedom. Our children are not lab rats. Stop promoting an experimental vaccine. Our kids are not the state's. This is a free country, no mandates. There's more here too, but I know I'm out of time. But I just want to leave these with you. And I know I spoke to Dr. Squire outside, and he asked, we took some pictures when there was some daylight. So I'm going to email those to you, and I'll also include in the email the request again, for the board to try to put some pressure on these state officials to keep out of this. Thank you for your time. So I give it to you.
Seth Garland.
I also am an old board member. Most all of you were on the board when I was, so I like to give history lessons. So I'm going to give a short history lesson. I started in 1992 on this board. I had the pleasure of working with a man named Frank Nizer, and he taught Leslie. And as a board, as you all know, your biggest primary role is fiduciary responsibility. Coxsackie-Athens has had a wonderful opportunity to have Leslie Calveston as their chief financial person for how many years now? 30. So, she's going to be missed immensely when she leaves. Every penny that goes through the school, she personally looks at and makes sure it's accurate. One of the great things I had on the board was a comfort level that we didn't have any misappropriation of funds. We didn't spend foolishly. It was a nice place to be in. And I feel compelled to come and say, I wish you the best in retirement. It was a pleasure to work with you. And I appreciate all the effort you've given to the school district. Thank you very much.
John Cameron.
Before you start the clock, I'd like to ask for some clarification. I'm looking at the public correspondence acknowledgement reports, and everything has a description of like letter of support by a Coleman. So what were number 7 and 8? It just says the Village of Athens and the Town Board of Athens.
It was the resolutions that they passed.
And can you give me opposing the regrouping?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to start there with the news article that's already been announced that there was only 8 people in opposition at the meetings and that they should move on and deal with the consequences. I believe that two resolutions, not letters, but resolutions by both boards show more than 8 people being opposed to the regrouping. And I would ask for a public retraction by the board for its member. And by public, I also want to be retracted via social media, because that's where people get most of the news. I watched the last meeting on, I wasn't able to attend, but I watched it online. And I was disappointed by the actions of many. We may have opposing views, on these issues that are taking place here today, but we all have our First Amendment right to express these views, and that right should be respected by all. I don't think that interrupting people and speaking over people should be accepted by either side, and it was a disgusting display at the last meeting. Let's see what else I got to say here. It was mentioned and been brought over, but I'd like to ask, how do I get input on how the equity, diversity, and equality is being implemented in our curriculum this year? It was brought up in the board meeting last, I believe, April or May, and I would like to know if there's any way that I can be informed on how this is being put into our curriculum. I'll put that in writing. And the next point that I'd like to bring up, because I'm sure the people are going to talk about other things, but this is near and dear to my heart, is that I paid close attention to the varsity football program this year. A lot of people may not have. There was a lot of young players on the team. They didn't do as well as possible. I just want to personally thank these 9th and 10th graders, along with the 11th and 12th graders on the team, but more at the 9th and 10th graders who stepped up and played at a varsity level. Basically, that's a boys versus men scenario when you're taking 14, 15-year-old kids against 18-year-old kids. And I'd like to commend them for their effort. I was on the program at Coxsackie-Athens that set the longest winless streak in New York State history. And I was also on the team that broke that streak. So I know both sides of it. And I'd just like to commend those kids on their effort. And I'm going to leave everything else up to the people who are coming up, because I'm sure it's going to be entertaining, and I thank you for your time.
I believe it's Corinne Geiger.
Can I take my time at the end, please?
Oh,
Thank you.
is that, okay. We did John. Lisa Hines.
On the board, I am Lisa Hines. If you don't know me, I am Coxsackie-Athens team mom. Enough about me. The reason why I'm here tonight is to talk about piggyback off of Gabe Hoagland. The college seminar class has been an amazing thing to do. My son is a procrastinator. He has made him not a procrastinator. He has taken a lot of stress off of me and my husband, because we would kill him because he's not hitting his deadlines. I can't rant and rave more about this class. There is one suggestion that I would like to say about the class though. I offer the FAFSA to get the parents to help with financial aid, tax papers, all of that. I would ask you to do that earlier than November. The reason why I say that, as a first-time college mom, I'm stressed out when I see the FAFSA forms come out. Everything comes out October 1st. So as me, I'm scrambling, trying to get everything together and looking for information, how to do these things, because I don't know how to do them, because everything has changed when I went to school. So I would suggest to do that earlier, because by the time that came out, it was useless for me because we already had gone through the process. I think it's a great idea to do it. Parents don't know how to do it now. So I would suggest that. Other than that, I would suggest to open this, like the French and Jean in their junior year. And kudos to Mr. Palmer for teaching them and getting them on the right track, because like Dylan has applied to 11 schools already. We're trying to keep them local at the moment, but he wants to go as far south as he can where it's warm. Who doesn't? And that's all I have to say. I do have something else to say. My husband could not be here due to work. He sent emails to the board last night. He asked me to just bring hard copies and leave them for your viewing at another time and maybe a response. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Fielding?
So, I put my glasses on. We all know that we're living in a pretty polarized world. Not even the quaint nature of Coxsackie-Athens community can seem to escape that. We love what we love, we support what we support, and there's a common denominator to why and how we live, and we love the things that we love and that are here to support. But when there's a link in the chain that causes that to bind or to not move, we have a problem, and that problem needs to be corrected. And regardless of the analogy that we use to describe a problem, I've done enough pontificating up here, and that's only going to introduce me to the time clock again. So we're not going to do that. I'm going to make it short and sweet tonight. You guys heard everything I had to say at the last meeting. As a community, we've spoken, just as those who work within this district have spoken, but are fearful to stand here for fear of retaliation. We've had that conversation. Again, we love what we love, and the common denominator, at least in this situation, is our children. That means being able to hold down a job where we can be close to them, to be influential in the system and in the community. And I applaud the 400+ people who took the time to sign a petition asking this board to dismiss from his duties or to ask Mr. Randall Esquire to resign as superintendent of this school district, with the grievances that have led to this moment detailed in the provided packets. I've said my piece, sometimes soft, usually loud, and tonight, this is all you're going to get from me. There's people here that have things to say, and I hope they can say it at whatever volume they feel like saying it. And I want to give you guys these packets, and I'm going to be done. I appreciate the time and hearing me out, putting up with me from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Michael Black here?
I'm 72 years old. This is the first Board of Education meeting I've ever attended. Is it a good thing? Maybe. But arguably, I have not been responsible. By far the largest part of our taxes is for school. And education, I think there's not much that's more important than education. I have no children of my own, but I'm a strong supporter of high quality public education. Children and young people are our future. I'm the beneficiary of great primary education, and I'm still talking to my high school English teacher. He's become a lifetime friend. I'm concerned about the Athens school. I've not reacted much to things that have gone on in the past, but I was pretty shocked when I think it was millions spent on granite curbstones and parking lots. And I wonder how much was spent on teachers. I'm not entirely disconnected. I hear things from people who have children in our schools. I talk to teachers and substitute teachers. I only ever hear good things about the Edward Arthur School. I do not hear things like that from any other school in our area, in this district or elsewhere. It seems it's the best in the area. I would like to know what is being done by this board and what is planned to support this good trajectory. Thank you.
Is there a Corinne here? I can't quite read the last name. Karen or Corinne? Karin? No?
How's the last name spelled? How's the last name spelled?
It looks like she got that.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Is it you?
I'm gonna forfeit myself.
Okay.
Is it Karen, you guys said Karen Geiger?
Yeah. I think
Yes,
it-
that's me.
Okay. I just wasn't sure of your last name.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you. Jessica Vermillion?
So we're through you guys. I'm gonna save it to the end.
Just take it, David?
Good evening. I'd like to address and get a response from the board on an incident with my daughter and Coach Katie Moore. And the date of the incident was October 22nd. It was brought to Kurt Wilkinson's attention. The situation that happened was my daughter Lorna followed all your guidelines to play volleyball with the mask in objection to the lie that the masks were. Then the day before her banquet dinner, I received a call at 3 p.m. from the school. It actually was a voicemail because I didn't get to it in time. That Lorna was exposed to a child that tested positive for the virus. It was from the principal. He said she would have to quarantine for 10 days. And in that same breath, he said he redacted it and said she could come back in 6 days, saying that they found out that they were notified on Wednesday, so she wouldn't have to stay out the full 10 days. And because the time had passed. The coach never called. I had to call the coach Katie and ask her what was going on with the banquet. She said that Lorna would not be able to come after asking me if Lorna was vaccinated. I told her no. She said, Katie then said that she could not come. I asked her why. This is kind of pissing me off, so pardon me for being a little bit off. If others are going, why is she being singled out with all the protocols? Okay. Katie said 2 other girls also couldn't come because they weren't vaccinated. And I asked her, what do you mean about that? She said that vaccinated girls showing no signs could come. I told her, Lorna's not showing any signs. Katie then said, this is what we're doing. We're just following the rules. And I says, you're just following the guidelines? Yes. And I said, just like the Nazis, because what they're doing is singling out people. The questions I have, and I would like them answered tonight. There's only 4 real simple questions. 1, when did it become a requirement to be vaccinated to go to school? 2, how is it not discrimination against people not vaccinated to participate in events like this? Okay, this is just like the dirty Jews. We are the unvaccinated, and that's where we're being classified.
Sorry, sir, that comment cannot be.
Yeah.
That's.
It's what it was. They called them that. It was just like the Jews that were vaccinated.
No, that's not correct. No, I'm gonna
Okay,
stop you on
so
that
now
comment.
number 3, how is it not a violation of the HIPAA Act to ask if someone is vaccinated? And 4, why did it take so long for the principal to call me if they knew on Wednesday? Okay, the masks don't work, or she should have been able to go to this. Okay, she followed all the protocols. She was so broken up about this, she can't even. And then on top of it, the coach told her she was MVP player. So I had her on the speakerphone on speaker so she could hear it. You want to talk about disgust after she took her own personal time and everything? Okay, okay. And I asked her, why aren't they canceling the dinner? Oh, they didn't answer. Okay, it was a team dinner. It was a team dinner and it should have been canceled. Okay, and I'm bringing it out because I don't know what's happening with the other teams. If all of a sudden someone gets, test positive. I asked the coach, was the person showing signs or just, oh, we can't tell you, that's a violation. But you can ask me about my daughter in relation to HIPAA and if she's got a vaccine or not.
Okay.
It's either all or nothing.
Mr. Big, the board doesn't have the answer to this.
Oh, of course not. We
So
don't
I
have the
think
answer.
someone will, if you.
But you
really-
see, here's the thing, this is a direct thing
Yeah.
off your
if
website, you can look at it. It
If you,
shows how if you're unvaccinated, you
if you-
can't play.
if you want to connect,
I addressed it with Randy,
okay,
okay?
and,
I addressed it. We're just following protocol.
right,
You're just following CDC. It's a line of
Right.
crap. Because then all these masks should have worked. That's what it comes down to. She couldn't go, it destroyed her. And you know what? And I told her, right, to Mr. Wilkinson, what did I tell you? You asked me if it would influence her in her future judgment. If it was me, I'll take these sports and shove it. Because if it's
All
not a
right.
team effort, if
We're
we don't
all-
go through that door
we're
together,
done.
we don't go
we're
together.
done, Mr. Pickett, thank you very
Yeah, I'm
much.
done.
Okay. Mr. Steve Waitley. Steve Waitley, is he here?
Good evening. This is only the second time I've ever spoken before this board, and this is the first time I'm speaking without notes. But I came basically to talk about some of my experience, and I don't care if the clock runs out, because I'm going to say what I have to say, whether you like it or not, because I've waited 21 years to say my piece. And tonight I'm going to say it. I'm here in favor of the petition to remove Randy Squire as the superintendent of the district, because I don't think this man knows how to lead. When he first came to the district, I defended him many, many times from fellow employees who complained to me about how he wasn't sociable. He'd walk by the hallway, wouldn't even say hello. And I would always say, did you try saying hello to him first? Well, he just walks right by, he won't say nothing, but him and I had a decent relationship at the time. And I would tell people, my interpretation of him was that he was socially inept. That was my description. However, working for the school and hearing what was going on earlier tonight when you're talking about bullying and your bullying policies are bull. That's exactly what they are. Because all the years, I worked 21 years for this district, 18 years, I was president of the custodial union. I was a head custodian in the middle school for 15 years. I loved this job. I absolutely loved it. However, I was bullied on a daily basis by my administrator. And I did complain one time to this man right here, Seth Garland, because I was being bullied. And he said, well, we didn't know anything about it. You know why? Because it's covered up. I complained continuously about the vandalism in the middle school, which still goes on to this day. And I'm talking thousands and thousands of dollars of vandalism. One thing I did the whole time I was here, I took pictures. I was told, oh, take pictures because the board wants to see them. I was never asked for one. I still have all those pictures, and I'd be willing to do a presentation anytime, any place that anybody wants to see them to back up what I'm saying. As far as the bullying goes, when I finally had enough, and Leslie will attest to the fact that I was close to finally having a breakdown because I couldn't take the pressure in the middle school anymore with the vandalism and the bullying I was getting from my administrator. I went to the district office to complain about certain things. I was called over and told by Randy and Leslie and the lawyer, you can't come to the district office. You can't come over here with complaints. And my union rep told Randy, oh, yes, he can. As a union president, he has as much right to come over here as anybody else, any teacher, any other administrator. When I told him about my complaints about my supervisor and how much he was bullying me, his condescending answer to me was, oh, Steve, have you tried talking to him about that? In exactly that tone. And I said, no, it isn't even worth it. And he said, why? And I said, because he treats me like I'm an effing idiot. 2 days later, after 15 years in the middle school, 2 days later, I get transferred to Edward J. Arthur. I was on the day schedule for a long time. I got transferred to Edward J. Arthur on the 3 to 11 shift to finish my career. Their hope was that I was going to get pissed off and quit, but I'm not a quitter. Never have been, never will be. So I went to EJA for my last 2.5 years, which happened to be the best 2.5 years of my entire career with CA, especially because that man standing in the back right there is the best gentleman in this entire district. Jim Martino. I learned something from him about how to treat people. So I was told I wasn't being punished. But yes, I was punished. I was sent down there. I don't care if my time's up, Mike.
It is.
I don't care. I'm finished.
Well,
I was very unhappy that I got sent down there. And I got sent only because I defied him and because I swore. And this is how people get treated all the time. The bullying and the vandalism is not dealt with. You need to open your eyes, every one of you. Walk around the schools, go in the bathrooms of the middle schools, talk to the custodial staff, ask them what's going on, and listen. Don't just walk by, listen to what they have to say, because it's painful, it's expensive, and they are hurting. The stress is unbelievable that they have to go through. And that is why I support the petition to send this man packing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're down to Mr. Geiger and Ms. Vermillier.
Did you call my name now? Is my name on it?
Oh, I'm sorry, who?
No, that's okay. Tiffany was, I didn't know if you called me at all.
Tiffany who?
Russo. Just kind of wanted to go on last item was.
I did not see it,
I saw you
Tiffany.
fill out a form, so you must have misplaced it.
Do you
I
want to?
understand you. I don't like you.
No, well, come on up because it's streamed. You're on camera. So all the folks at home
I had
can
to write
see
it
you.
down. I wanted to say what I had to say, but if I don't write it down, I'm not gonna remember everything. So I've been writing and prepping and gathering facts, instances, documents, thoughts to come here to present in front of you, which I have many. It's engulfed my whole life for this past year. But this morning, I kissed my little ones and told them to enjoy their day, and it literally just hit me like a ton of bricks. Why? Why do I have to present facts? Why do I have to prove to people that don't know my children? You don't know their medical background. You don't know anything, even their names for that matter. I'm sure most of you don't know their names. So why as a parent, as a mom who gave life to my children, the one who loves them like no other, why should I need to stand in front of people that do not know them and beg you to let them breathe freely without a mask? Why is that a thing? To freely express themselves and just be. This is absurd. It's outright disgusting. And I am beyond fed up, like beyond. I give them permission every day before they leave to take the mask off. And I will back them 100% because they don't fear COVID. The thing that they say to me is they fear getting in trouble. What does that say to you? When in the beginning of the school year, when we had the first board meeting, Mr. Squire, you used Florida as an example as to why children should be masking up and not being able to remove them. Are you still using Florida? Because their cases are a hell of a lot lower than New York. I would love to know if you're going to stick with that. Now you're allowing vax clinics with no need for parental presence when you can't even give an aspirin to a child. Just a few weeks ago, you guys allowed teachers to receive boosters in an overflow lunchroom where our children eat without parents knowing. You do realize that needles can carry AIDS, hepatitis, and this is where our kids eat. So we're just supposed to expect that it's cleaned up well and everybody did their job right? This is not a medical facility. You are urging unvaccinated kids and requiring unvaccinated staff to test randomly and or weekly. You do not realize, do you realize that SARS can still be contracted and spread by the vaccinated? In fact,
per the idiot Fauci, the vaccine wanes after 6 months. So what are you going to do? Go back to every single person after every 6 months? But, Mr. Squire, you yourself, sorry to single you out, should be well aware. I'm only assuming that you're fully vaccinated because you tout for it so much with our children and staff. But you contracted COVID as what I'm assuming a fully vaccinated individual. Maybe you should have randomly tested before attending homecoming, like you're making the other people. Thank you. That is a prime example of rules for thee, but not for me, and it's also completely discriminatory. You condemn and punish the unvaccinated staff, threaten suspension if they don't do the testing for exercising their right to bodily autonomy. Yet no repercussions when your library teacher teaches the kids of a virus that killed 40,000 people. And then a child removes their mask and she looks at that child and says, I just got done teaching a lesson where 40,000 people died. Do you want that to happen again? How acceptable is that? That's disgusting. And just a tiny bit more. You keep talking about 2030 and how we need to get the children to move on to 2030. But when 2030 comes, these children right now that are here now are going to be greatly affected by these mandates, mentally, academically, because you choose to sell them out for ESSER funds. Where's that money going? What are we doing with ESSER funds? Because now my kid can't breathe freely because you needed money for what? Thank you.
So I think now we're down to Mr. Geiger or Ms. Vermillion.
Now, before we start the clock or whatever, I do want some clarification. I know Randy brought up about testing staff. And I know you guys know I've asked about accommodation. I still am in the wind, what's going on with that. So before I say my piece, I kind of was wondering if there's clarification. Do I still have a job in 2 weeks or will I not? When we start implementing testing.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be an answer we would be talking about tonight.
Okay.
I don't know that answer.
All right.
I mean, we're basically operating under the governor's guidelines.
I understand.
And it's the governor, I mean, just so people understand, it's
The
the,
Green County Department of Health is supposedly oblivious to saliva testing.
oh, I don't know about this particular
The
test.
State Department of Health, which police can testify, they know about saliva testing. They take home their test and they test at home.
What's that?
The State Department of Health, they take their tests at home.
All state employees.
So how is the Green County Department
Yeah.
idiotic to this?
I-
I've been asking you guys for months.
Yeah, it's, I know you've talked to Ms. Copleston several times, but I don't know
And
what your
still-
resolution was.
No. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a clarifying question, because I know you've been to us a lot. and,
Yeah.
Have you gotten answers to all your questions from the district office that you asked?
Nothing to my satisfaction.
You have got a response.
A generic, emotionless, pathetic response.
Okay,
Yes,
all right, thank you.
unacceptable. All right, okay, so then I'll go. My name is Josie Vermillion, or better known as to the students as Miss B. Because they don't know me as Miss Vermillion. I am here tonight for a few reasons, but I doubt I will have time to touch on all those reasons. My first thing is the mandatory testing, the discriminatory testing of only the unvaccinated staff. I do not have the district-wide numbers of the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated who have caught COVID, but I can tell you from my building that what those numbers look like. Those who have been unvaccinated are the ones who have not contracted COVID this entire time. We have been COVID-free. The unvaxxed have been COVID-free, just so you know. With this being said, why are we being singled out and tested? A stay has been put on these test mandates by the federal government, the Sixth Circuit. Yet here we are still. These tests are not a courtesy, no matter how you word your newsletter, email, etc. Forcing anyone to submit or coercing them into an invasive and unnecessary procedure is not a courtesy. If I am sick, which I haven't been in years, I would seek out my doctor and move forward accordingly. I am responsible for myself, not you, not the government. We are being threatened with probation or disciplinary action, including being suspended without pay and being fired if we do not comply. This is direct threat and coercion. The training we took at the beginning of the year talked about this. The threats and coercion a person in power will use to get you to do what they want, keep a job, get promoted. This is what you are doing by saying you either comply or you are fired. All of you enforcing this are guilty. I told you since day one that I would not consent to invasive testing and ask for a reasonable accommodation. The response I got was not a denial, but basically passing the buck to the Greene County Department of Health, saying they are ignorant to saliva tests. I highly doubt this, since the state of health uses saliva tests as well as the nasal swabs. The State Department of Health uses Quest Diagnostics Authentication Service. The invasive nasal swabs are $89 and the saliva tests are $110. I have the website and forward you all from the State Department of Health on these test options. These tests we are trying to force upon us are not FDA approved. They are only emergency use authorized, in other words, experimental. The PCR tests are currently in a class 3 recall. These tests, as I have informed you before, contain carcinogens from the ethylene oxide used in the sterilization process. How can you, in good conscience, ask your staff to put themselves at risk of getting cancer? We know how you feel about us, that we are transient beings. I can assure you we are not transient employees. Any transient employee was created due to a hostile, condescending, and manipulative workplace environment, as well as threats and ultimatums. My mother, who works in healthcare, was submitted to weekly testing and masking. She was completely healthy prior to these mandates. Recently, we found out she has a tumor that will kill her if it is not removed and could possibly be cancerous, which we will find out tomorrow. Do not tell me it's not related or it's ironic. I would bet my life on it that both of these mandates contributed to this tumor that could possibly be cancerous. Masks create the acidic environment, which is the perfect environment for cancer to thrive. I will not consent with testing that could land me in the same boat. I ask you to provide me with long-term safety studies on these tests I still have not seen. I have asked you if you're confident in these tests enough to sign liability papers, which none of you seem willing to do. These tests and mandates are against my creed, my strong religious beliefs, which I will be presenting each one of you with a copy of my religious exemption. I am not the only employee who feels this way. I am apparently the only one, though not scared of repercussions or having a target on my back. You have backed me into a corner. I will not go away quietly. I asked for a reasonable accommodation. There has been ample time that this could have been taken care of. I know how much I mean to my coworkers and the students. I know what I bring to the table. My reviews back that. You can ask Jim, you can ask Karen. I'm not an easy replacement. I'm not just a body in the district. I make a difference to the people that mean the most, the kids. I am curious though, how much you sold us out for the staff, the students, the COVID blood money, the money that is bound you to implementing these mandates upon us all. How much were we worth to you? I am curious. I want answers now, not some generic email, emotionalist from Randy tomorrow. I want to hear from each of you board members. You know I email you, I tag you all. My family has already faced injustices by this district, bullying and treading on our rights and constitution. It's time for answers and accountability. Why can I get my reasonable accommodation? Why has it come to this point? Why has it taken so long to get a handle on the bullying? Why did my daughter have to get suspended for 5 days and miss out on an education for defending herself? Why did the newspaper have to get involved to begin to make some sort of attempt at dealing with it? And yes, my daughter got suspended for 5 days after she came to you guys about bullying because a girl pushed her and she pushed her back and there was an altercation. She was suspended, an IEP student who needs to be in school learning, suspended for 5 days. And lastly, I will be serving you all with a grievance of discrimination. All you board members, including Randy, regarding this discrimination of vaccination for unvaxxed staff. And I have a religious exemption also to present to you for myself. And my latest 5, maybe 6-page religious exemption. Leslie, you did get a copy of it. There's a lot of personal information in here, so I would appreciate if you kindly kept it. Get out of here.
Mr. Geiger.
I'm good, guys. Thank you very much.
Well, okay, sir. Okay, we'll move on. Just acknowledge the receipt of 18 plus emails and letters. And each board member has received a copy. Right, we were back at building highlights. Anybody like to go first? Mr. Martino?
Hello, under the leadership of Ms. Fuchsia, our HAR classes have been learning about honoring Matisse. He's a French artist. And looking at specifically at cutout art, which is pretty famous for. The pandemic has created a lot of gaps in our students' learning, and as well as fine motor skills. So this lesson had a dual purpose. One, to allow students to practice with their scissors and fine motor skills, as well as appreciating Matisse's amazing artwork. Tomorrow, the results of the vote for their favorite Matisse artwork will be revealed. I'm really excited about that. I also want to just do a shout out to Ms. Greenaway. She's a teacher who did a fantastic job with the PTA, the CES Veterans Day Assembly. If you haven't seen the work that all the children did to give their gratitude towards their service members, you can check it out on our Facebook page. And today was our annual Thanksgiving luncheon. It was delicious, still pretty full from that. It's a big event and it's a big undertaking. With the food preparation from the kitchen staff, the cafeteria set up for custodians, the art placement and placemats and decorations, all the teaching assistants who supervised students during that time, and of course, the PTO volunteers who were able to come in this year and help us out to make the event so successful. A couple of things that are coming up is our book fair, as well as our Cocoa with Claws, which will take place on Saturday, December 4th. Thanks.
Just want to let everyone know, I'm truly blessed to work with great staff at Coxsackie Elementary as well as the students. During my absence last week, it was, they're able to take over and the building survived. And we went into this week with our book fair and we had a very, very successful book fair and very successful even with our PTO with the Sparkles Dinner. Each week I do send out a newsletter on Sunday evening that celebrates our students and staff. So I know Tara gets it, like you probably did sometimes through Mary, but take a look at those. Each week I do that so that it's out there in the forefront all the time. Some things that you don't see, which I want to give a big shout out to Nicole Lindeman. She did with my staff, our fourth grade staff, a program called Mystery Meet, where our fourth graders had the opportunity to team up with another district to find out where they were. and they had to ask questions, and they were on a Google Meet asking questions to figure out who was their mystery class. So, and whoever got it first, the other school district got it first, and they were very surprised, our district, because they asked, do you live near Mansion Street? And they were able to get, oh, well, you must be Coxsackie. So they had a little bit different setup, but it was a great experience. So those things, aren't in my newsletter this week, but certainly little things like that make Coxsackie Elementary such a great place for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a lot great going on at the middle school. As you, it was nice, that was our newscast from Monday morning. I have to give not only the students who have blown us all away with their ability to put on a news show every single morning. April Bergman and Andrew Baker took an idea and made it reality. And it's amazing to see everybody tuning in. We are trying to every Friday do something spirit-wise, whether it be, obviously wearing costumes on Halloween was very important this Friday because it's a 5-day week and that just seemed really, really long. It is pajama day, school appropriate pajamas. We've got plans because we've got book fair coming up right after break. So, breaking news here, we're going to do dress as your favorite book character Friday after we get back from Thanksgiving break. So there's a lot of great things going on at the middle school. Our teachers are doing a lot in their own classrooms to support student mental health, student social emotional learning. We are using responsive classroom. I have been involved in classroom circles. I've been invited to classroom circles. I have, in different grade levels, kind of helped co-facilitate classroom circles. So the kids are great. They are really learning how to talk to each other and how to listen and building relationships. And, I will say we've done, we're doing both the whole group and then the individual, we're doing the universal, tier 1. This is what we're doing with everybody. We're reinforcing appropriate behavior, et cetera, and then as we need to, we go up the tiers up to and including, small conferences to mediate and that sort of thing to address the problems. And we're working hard, and some of that is building spirit, building community, and what the teachers are doing in the classroom every single day. And I am loving the job every single day, and the kids, when they come in, are happy, and they say good morning, and they say good morning to me, and to Mrs. Smith, and to Mrs. Cole, and all the people at our doors. And it's a nice, happy, it feels like a happy place to be.
Nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you.
I'm going to be brief. One shout out, I'm going to piggyback off of what Martina said about Mrs. Fuchsia. She is working wonderfully with Mrs. Dole's art class, and she wanted me to give you a shout out to her. She's embedding a lot of attention or motor skills into her artwork. She has a wonderful singing voice that our students in that class love singing, so she incorporates the music in with the art, and the kids are loving it. She's displaying the artwork around the building, so I want to give a big shout out to her. And for, she's been really on it. So, and the last thing is our Orton Gillingham training. I spoke about that in my last, we started 2 days of training already. The 3rd day is Monday. Mr. Martino is hosting it down at EJA. It's wonderful. We have about 12 teachers that are attending it right now, and they love it. We get a lot of great feedback. They are seeing how they can embed this right into the reading program. So we are looking forward to, I met with the trainer today with Mrs. Collins, and it was, it's great. So we have a lot of stuff, more stuff to come on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tech Services is very excited to have our two new team members with us now. We have Allie Leonardo, who is our new coordinator of innovation. She's working really hard to get some new tech trainings up and running for both Apple and Google educators. So we're really excited about that. We also have a new network engineer. His name is Joshua. He comes to us under a contract with National. He's a brilliant young man, and we're really excited to have him as well. The technicians are working on rapid response and cross training so that everybody can jump in if there's an immediate issue, as well as they're working on smartboard speeds and reducing line time. So that's one of the things that's definitely our targets of late. And we also just received our first piece of equipment to go in the incubator room. So we're actually putting it together and we're really excited about that. And we'll be seeing you in early December for a lengthy tech update from us. So off to this evening.
Thank you. All right, school services update.
Just first off, ECAP training, there was that's the student activities funds. We typically have an annual training, and we had it scheduled, but there were some complications with health and things like that. So anyway, that's been postponed, but we just wanted to follow up and say that will take place with all of the advisors of all the student activities, with Cheryl Mathis doing the training. So that will be fun. We have to do very lengthy reporting to the state for transparency. There's two different ones. One that looks forward as to what you budgeted by building, and then one that looks back as to what you've actually spent for building. So it's had a big impact on how we put people in our budget. It's got to be all, most of it has to be designated by building, so that we have to track that. So Ryan and I worked on that this summer and into the fall, once our audit was done. Both of those reports have been completed, and I believe both of them have been accepted by whatever entity needs to accept them. Budget calendar, we typically take a look at in November and then accept it in December. There was a little bit of a delay getting the budget development committee together, so I believe there's something. Thank you. November 30th. So we hopefully will have a new and improved budget development calendar for December. Senior and disabled exemptions for school taxes. We don't believe there is any change going forward for next year because we are at the lawful maximum, along with all the other school districts agreeing. So we don't expect to see anything. One of the things, as Ryan was interning this summer, took a look at our purchasing policy, and we noticed some gaps. And so over the next couple of months, we're going to be looking at making some revisions and having the board look at those and get you to approve that. Anything else? Okay. Awesome.
First day coming. So
Today was his first day. So congratulations.
all your days will be 7 to 10. All right, Carrie, any instructional services?
Well, I know
Or was that Ellen?
but I would still say thank you to all the people that came and presented. And just to let you know, the work that we've been doing on the essential standards is really around making sure, because we know with COVID and the gaps that our kids have because of that, making sure that we're covering the absolutely most important pieces of the curriculum and taking a look and seeing if there are certain pieces of our curriculum that we could uniformly, so across say a third grade. One of the things they came up with, they took out one particular unit because it was on fairy tales, exciting, lots of fun for kids, but not a necessary thing for them to have to go to fourth grade. And the teachers really need to have that time to work on the gaps that the kids have. So that's the work we were doing with the essential standards this week.
Okay. The superintendent's recommendations, personnel matters, need a motion of consent for B.
There's one In addition, if the board would entertain it, well, there's actually two. Jen Luzette would also like to be a sub-teaching assistant. That wasn't on the original agenda, we know that. And the other is we had a young person want to volunteer to help out with the volleyball. His name is Jacob Zeller. If we could add him to the agenda to be approved as a volunteer pending fingerprint clearance, that would be very helpful.
So Jacob,
Zeller, CELIP.
where would he go? Leslie,
Here we go at the end, I would say,
on his own, like volunteer?
yes, the volunteer.
Yes. Okay, so motion and consent for
You said
B1.
Jennifer was that? Sorry,
Yes, I was able to insert that on the agenda that I printed for you.
it's not the second one? Is that what you're saying? It's not the other person, volunteer was the only one that didn't make it on?
Correct.
Okay.
B1, 2, 3. 3, well, I gotta keep going. 3A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and then volunteer would be Jacob. What's his last name? Phillips?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Michael, on 3A, since I have a relative on there, can you take that out and do the separate vote?
Okay. All but 3A. Get a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. And for 3A, need a motion? Approved? Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, are we looking at making the substitute packet a little less intensive and so much stuff to it? Because I've gotten a couple of people that have reached out to me, not just my aunt, but that just there's a lot to it and they're getting asked and, you know, they're attempting to hand it in, but they're told, no, you have to get, and they're getting deterred from signing up because there's so many other steps that they can't just.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, I don't know.
Any other Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
One abstention.
One abstention. Business matters, motion to consent for C1. 1A, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Any further public input? Around the table? David?
I thought it was great to get some feedback tonight about the college seminar class that we're doing. And it seems to be beneficial for the students who take it. So I'm glad that we put that forward. Thank you. And I hope we continue it and move it to the spring so that it'll. Good feedback.
I want to say that I appreciate the public coming out tonight, exercising their right to speak and having a platform to speak to the Board of Education.
I was going to say similar, but to thank the public for coming in and talking to us, it's not an easy thing. The other thing is I want to thank the teachers that put the presentations together for showing us what's happening in their departments. That's greatly appreciated and telling us what they need.
I'm gonna thank the middle school kids that were courageous enough to come and even speak, because at first it was just a video, and then it was great that they were all, you know, eager to come out and speak to a bunch of people that are, they don't know.
Well, Someday.
Assembly line.
Well, yeah, yeah, that was.
Except for when it's a comedy show.
I really like the enthusiasm that our staff presented today, you know, I mean, just with the teachers and, you know, and Kurt with the athletics, and just, I really like feeling that in our schools, and that's my business, so, thank you.
I just want to thank our staff. I like this idea of having them shut out or turn off for the weekend, because I mean, they've got to be exhausted. These long days are just so, I just want to thank our staff.
And I would just be repeating, but the presentations were great. Seeing the kids was great. And all the work everybody does, it's very much appreciated. And it's good to see our former board friends, Chris and Seth.
And I will echo Mr. Garland's statements before, Leslie, and say thank you for your dedication here and 30 years here, and will be missed, although we do welcome Ryan as well. Looking forward to having you here.
One more month. You have one more meeting, right?
That's right,
Team.
They're called crews now, right?
Yeah, right. One more meeting, Leslie, or two? Just two.
Be here in December.
Okay. All right.
Whenever we need her, right?
Yeah. I'll call away. All right, future board meetings, December 2nd, 6 p.m. a presentation meeting here. December 16th, a regular board meeting, 6:30 at EJA.
Mike, I have a question. To Randy, on that presentation meeting for December 2nd, do you have an idea at this time who will be speaking?
Yep, it's on your presentation chart. No, tech services is one. Hang on. And that. I can give it to you in 30 seconds. I've got to take it out. Yeah. Right now, the topics are technology services, student-centered project-based learning is the other topic, and tying it into the 2030 destination.
Okay,
Some
thank you.
separate topics. And then the regular meeting in December will be math.
Okay, need a motion to go into executive session for committee of special education minutes and a couple of personnel issues.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you, everybody.